Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Putnam County Board of Commissioners meeting on this 17th day of November 2015. Welcome each of you to our morning proceedings. At this time, we have with us the Reverend Eddie Parcher of First Baptist Church of Palatka, who will lead us in our invocation. Commissioner Chip Libo will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. And as we pray, we're asking Reverend Parcher to certainly please remember the victims from Paris. And let's have a moment of silence just before he prays. Will we all stand?
Holy Father God, we do thank you for this morning that you have given us and allow us to come before your throne of grace. And how humbling it is to know that, Father, that you are there anytime we have a need. In the middle of the nights as we cry out, Father, as there's things that come against us in the night. And Father, we can cry out to you, for we know that you are the author, the finisher, the perfecter of our faith. And Father, we come before your great throne this morning. And Father, in intercession on behalf of this council. And God, I pray this morning that, Father, that you would be with each and every one of these men and women. As, Father, as there is things tabled, things will be discussed. And God, and we just ask for your spirit to govern. God, I do thank you for these men and women that sacrificially give of their time and their efforts to do the things that they need to do. But, Father, we do recognize those in Paris and, Father, around the world that are suffering persecution. That, Father, the darkness that has come over this world, that, Father, we know that we understand the problem, but, God, we know that the solution has been given. And that solution has come many years ago in the form of your Son, Jesus Christ. And, God, it says in your word that, Father, if we will delight ourselves in you, that you will give us the desires of our heart. And, Father, I pray today that the world will fall to their knees. And, Father, they would come before your throne of grace, and, God, and just ask for forgiveness, God, as we ask to be forgiven. God, we love you. We thank you. We just thank you for these men and women today and ask you then, Lord, to bless them. Lord, continue to guide us, guard us, and protect us in all that we do in our community, Lord. In Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you, Reverend Parcher, for sharing with us invocation. Commissioners, each of you should have received the minutes from the October 27th, 2015 meeting proceedings. What is your pleasure?
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
We have a proper motion.
Second.
Second. Further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to refer to page 8, where Monica Harper appeared in support of solar heating at the county aquatic facility. I'd like for that to be amended to that we referred that back to Parks and Recreation Committee.
Okay, at the top of the page.
Yeah, let the record
Repeat that again, Commissioner Harvey, please.
let the record reflect that we referred that back to Parks and Recreation Committee for consideration.
Oh, okay. There's no change in the minutes.
No, well, just to add that line if we could.
Well, I think it's in her detail, in the detail minutes. This is just a synopsis. Is that correct? Okay, all
Thank
right.
you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. To all of our citizens and commissioners alike, we have several proclamations that have been submitted with specific information and details that causes us to have a heightened level of awareness as to many of the activities that are happening in and around our community as well as our nation and world. Many positive things are going on where we have individuals who come here and give us credit, and oftentimes they deserve the credit because they are actually the true servants that are making such a positive difference. As it relates to hospice and palliative care month, we have both Haven and Hospice of the Citrus and Nature Coast are here with us, as representatives are here to share. I've asked Commissioner Harvey to present two of those proclamations from Hospice of the Citrus and Nature Coast. One is dealing with our children and how they deal with grief. And I've asked Commissioner Lible to present the proclamation that is being presented to Haven Hospice. So if we'll ask Commissioner Harvey, if you will start with the two proclamations that will be submitted to Hospice of the Citrus and Nature Coast. If you all will please come, representatives from Hospice of Citrus and Nature Coast. If you'll come first, Commissioner Lible will present for offer to the commission the one for Haven.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, Putnam County Proclamation Number 2015-84, National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. Whereas Hospice of Citrus and Nature Coast offers the highest quality services and support to patients and family caregivers facing serious and life-limiting illness. And whereas hospice care and palliative care providers take the time to ask what's important to those they are caring for and listen to what their patients and families say. And whereas skilled and compassionate hospice and palliative care professionals, including physicians, nurses, social workers, therapists, counselors, health aides, clergy, provide comprehensive care focused on the wishes of each individual patient. And whereas through pain management and symptom control, caregiver training and assistance in emotional and spiritual support, allowing patients to fully live up to their final moments, surrounding and supported by the faces of loved ones, friends, and committed caregivers. And whereas the provisions of quality hospice and palliative care reaffirms our belief in the essential dignity of every person, regardless of age, health, or social status, and that every stage of human life deserves to be treated with the utmost respect and care. And whereas every year more than 1.5 million Americans living with life-limiting illnesses and their families receive care from the nation's hospice programs in communities throughout the United States. And whereas more than 468,000 trained volunteers contribute 22 million hours of service to hospice programs annually. And whereas Hospice of Citrus and Nature Coast encourages all people to learn more about the options of care and to share their wishes with family, loved ones, and their healthcare professionals. Now therefore, the Putnam County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims November 2015 as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month in Putnam County, and encourages citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of options of care at the end of life, and to observe this month with appropriate activities and programs. Mr. Chairman, I move that we move forward with Proclamation 2015-84.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for adoption of this proclamation. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, of course, motion carries. Thank you so much. We have a second proclamation.
Mr. Chairman and fellow board members, Proclamation 2015-94, Children's Grief Awareness Day. Whereas children who have loved ones die, especially a close family member, experience intense internal turmoil. And whereas every school district has students who have experienced personal loss, and they are giving grieving children the most of us realize. And whereas the Florida legislature resolved on April 7, 2011 to observe Children's Grief Awareness Day in Florida annually on the Thursday before Thanksgiving. And whereas the Children's Grief Awareness Day provides an opportunity for all of us to raise awareness of the painful impact that the death of a loved one has in the life of a child. An opportunity for all of us to recognize and support the millions of grieving children across the nation, the thousands of grieving children right in our own communities, and the grieving children we know and see in our daily lives. And whereas Harry's Kids Pediatric Services, a program of hospice and Citrus of the Nature Coast, provides specialized services to children and teens with life-threatening illness, and offers grief support and therapeutic camps for young people and the loved ones who have experienced this loss. Now therefore, the Putnam County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims November 19th, 2015 as Children's Grief Awareness Day in Putnam County, and applauds the work currently being accomplished to support grieving children on their journey toward hope after a loved one dies. Mr. Chairman, I move Proclamation 2015-94 for approval.
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, no motion carries. Thank you again from the hearts of the Putnam County Commissioners, as well as all of our citizens, for the services that you provide day in and day out for families that are in need of these services. So I humbly present these two proclamations to you.
I would like to make one quick comment, and that is to thank our volunteers. Because without hospice volunteers, we cannot carry out our vital mission for this community, and we have some incredible volunteers, so thank you.
Commissioner Lible, at this time, proclamation, National Hospice and Palliative Care Month, and we have Haven Hospice representatives here.
Yeah, you have Miss Nurse Becky in the back. We've got a whole bunch of them. Welcome. All right. Okay, National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. Whereas hospice and palliative care empowers people facing a serious or life-limiting illness to live as fully as possible, surrounded and supported by family and loved ones. And whereas through pain management and symptom control, caregiver training and assistance, and emotional and spiritual support, allowing patients to live fully and make more meaningful moments until the end, surrounded and supported by the faces of loved ones, friends, and committed caregivers. Whereas every year more than 1.5 to 1.6 million Americans living with life-limiting illnesses and their families receive care from the National Hospice programs in communities throughout the United States. And whereas Haven Hospice believes that everyone deserves comfort, care, and compassion. And whereas Haven Hospice has had the honor and privilege to provide direct care to 5,717 individuals facing a life-limiting illness through its 18-county service area in 2014. During that time, Haven provided counseling and grief support services to 7,880 individuals and families in the community it serves. Now, therefore, the Putnam County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims November 2015 as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month in Putnam County, and encourages citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of options of care at the end of life, and to observe this month with appropriate activities and programs. Done, ordered, and adopted this 17th day of November 2015. And I would like to offer that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second that this proclamation be adopted by this commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, a motion carries. Thank you again for the services that you all provide to all of our citizens, their families, and their caregivers. At this time, would you like to make some remarks?
Thank you very much. This is Heather Davis, our professional liaison at Haven Hospice, and I'm the volunteer coordinator. And we have some really wonderful volunteers that are appreciated. The families love them. I want to let you know that Friday we're having a Purple Out, which is in honor of National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. So if you'd wear purple, that would be really great, and learn more about hospice services. Thank you for having us here today.
Okay.
Next, we have a proclamation for Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Day. Commissioner Pelletier will present this proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Putnam County Proclamation Number 2015-81, Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Day. Whereas in 2015, an estimated 48,960 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and 40,560 will die from the disease. And whereas pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers and is the fourth leading cause of cancer death in the United States and projected to become the second by 2020. And whereas pancreatic cancer is the only major cancer with a 5-year relative survival rate in the single digits at just 7%. And whereas when symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves, it is generally in late stages, and 73% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year of their diagnosis, while 93% of the pancreatic cancer patients die within the first 5 years. And whereas approximately 2,980 deaths will occur in Florida in 2015, and whereas pancreatic cancer is the 7th most common cause of cancer-related death in men and women across the world, and whereas there will be an estimated 367,000 new pancreatic cancer cases diagnosed globally in 2015, and whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of Putnam County are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Now, therefore, the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners hereby recognizes November 13, 2015 as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Day in Putnam County and encourages its citizens to work together in raising awareness and funds to find a cure for pancreatic cancer. Done, ordered, and adopted this 17th day of November 2015, Board of County Commissioners, Putnam County, Florida. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer this motion as a motion.
We have a proper motion and a second for the adoption of this proclamation, 2015-81. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Again, awareness is what this proclamation is to bring to us. We're also honored to have representatives of the Bartram Trail Committee that's here. Instead of a proclamation, this is a resolution that supports the National Recreation Trail designation of the Bartram Trail, and I would like for all representatives who are associated and otherwise affiliated with Bartram Trail to please come front and center with us today. Thank you. Commissioner Harris will be presenting this resolution for adoption.
Thank you.
We got in the room.
It's my pleasure to present this resolution. A resolution in support of National Recreation Trail designation of the Bartram Trail in Putnam County. Whereas the benefits of designation of the Bartram Trail in Putnam County as a national recreation trail include being recognized nationally as a recreation destination, nationally promoted on maps and through websites, increased tourism, and increased revenue for local businesses. Whereas our region benefits from promoting nature-based recreation opportunities, especially paddling, biking, hiking, fishing, and wildlife viewing, to increase health benefits to our local communities and encouraging youth and families to participate in outdoor activities. Whereas the region benefits from promoting the rich culture and history contained within the watershed of the St. Johns River, the setting for the explorations of John and William Bartram in the 1700s, drawing visitors eager to explore the historical legacy through paddling, cycling, hiking, or driving and tours. Whereas the Bartram Trail in Putnam County offers a unique opportunity for residents and visitors to explore an unspoiled, pristine area of Florida. Whereas the cultural, historical, and natural resources of this area are some of the most unique in the Southeast. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of County Commissioners, Putnam County, does hereby endorse the Office of Greenways and Trails application for designation of the Bartram Trail in Putnam County as a national recreation trail by the United States Department of the Interior. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
Thank you. We have a proper motion for adoption of this resolution and a second. At this time, because this is a resolution, we would like to have a roll call vote. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 3, absolutely yes. It's unanimous. Thank you so very much. We're so honored. The synergy that each of you all bring to this, our county, is unsurpassed. What you do and how you have recognized the importance of the activities that promote the Bartram Trail, and especially St. Johns River, and all of the various activities that promote tourism, ecotourism, protecting the environment, and the natural resources that we have in this community that so many take for granted. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for bringing the conference to our community. Thank you for not only bringing national attention, but international attention to our region. We are very humbled and honored, and just to sit with you all at the table during the conference was an honor for us. And I thank Commissioner Harris for her leadership and how she has certainly been just a champion for this committee and for all of the activities that you all stand for. Is someone going to have some words to share?
Sure. This is another dream come true for me here in Putnam County, and you know when we started this thing 3 years ago, it was really an amazing dream that we just thought about putting up a sign somewhere near front of Palatka, and it has mushroomed into this. And Commissioner Carl, what you say is exactly right. We have received international recognition for who we are. We're the only place in the world that you can literally travel in Bartram's footsteps, paddle in Bartram's footsteps, walk in Bartram's footsteps, and motor in Bartram's footsteps. It's amazing. And when we had 170 people from outside of Putnam County come here last month, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. And the comments that they made about our county were incredible. This designation of a national recreation trail will go along with the 4 other Bartram National Recreation Trails to the Bartram Trail Conference. Will actually try to get the National Park Service to designate the Bartram Trail, which will include Putnam County, as a national trail similar to the Lewis and Clark Trail. So this is really key. This will be the first one in Florida, and there's 3 others, one in North Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. So this is big time. It really is. And for us to be nationally recognized like this is just huge. And you know, I hope it's been fun. It's been amazing. But we thank you for the county's cooperation, and especially the county employees. We have some talented people here in Putnam County, and I think of Bob Stender and his group down at the IT department building the website and all of that. And those folks are just fantastic, and we appreciate all the assistance we've had from you folks. Thank you.
We'd also like to applaud your leadership. Your modesty is appreciated, but you are quite a leader. Thank you again for what you bring to the table. And not only do you lead with all of your knowledge and your wisdom and experience, you lead the team in such a manner that the group is so cohesive and really pulling in the same direction, and that's to say a lot in these times.
Thank you, but let me say one other thing. That last meeting of the Bartram Trail Conference in Putnam County, I went to, what the purpose of the meeting was to dissolve the committee. But there was a mutiny at the thing, and the committee, all 25 people said, "We're going on with you, Sam." And so, amazing.
The rest is history, right?
It is. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I wanted to ask something. On the last page of our packet is where we need to appoint someone to serve on the new Southern Region Recreation Resource Advisory Committee for several states. And last meeting, I brought it up, and we hadn't really had it on the agenda. So it's on here now, and I'd like to nominate Sam Carr to serve in that position. And I think that this will help us get that designation and give him an extra edge that we need. So if I may do that now?
All right, Commissioners, we will take that out of order. It is listed under appointments, but there is certainly a segue that we can do that. Is that a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that a motion.
We have a motion and a second to designate this appointment. Further discussion?
One more thing. I just wanted to say, these people standing before you have worked so hard, all of them. It's amazing, the talent and the time they put in it. I just wanted to recognize them too.
Absolutely. Have a proper motion and a second on the floor. You've had time to consider. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Congratulations to each of you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Citizens, next on the agenda is the portion of the agenda that has been designated for public comment. This opportunity for you to bring matters to our attention. The board is not reasonably expected to engage in debate or deliberation about matters that we have not had prior information on or that has not been presented to us in such a manner that proper investigation could take place with our department heads, et cetera. Public comment cards are conveniently placed at the opening coming into the commission meeting room. We also practice and pledge civility in our meetings. We'll be respectful of one another even when we disagree. We will direct all comments to the issues and avoid personal attacks. The designated time for comments is 3 minutes. You will have more than 3 minutes when you go through a procedure of requesting to be on the agenda. So starting us off is Mr. Gene Meadows. Good morning.
My name is Gene Meadows. I reside at 128 North Francis Street in Interlaken. And I just have a couple of comments to make that I felt just needed to come to the board. In the recent tax increase that was voted down by the town council, there were some comments made in the paper by some commissioners that if the council had questions, they should have asked them. Mr. Harvey contacted Councilwoman Carolyn Meadows, which is my wife, concerning these questions, and she presented them to them. The questions went to the appropriate person, and 5 minutes before the next town council meeting, this was presented to them to review. So the questions were answered, but they weren't given to them in appropriate enough time for them to review them. Another comment was made, and this I'll have to read, and I quote. This is from Commissioner Flagg. Flagg said they were likely conversations among the council members between the first and second reading of the first ordinance that made them uncomfortable about the tax increase. That, to me, I think is a violation of the Florida Sunshine Law if it did happen. It did not happen. The reason for their tax problem that they had with it was the TU system that we use. It was voted down in 2006 by the Council of Interlaken because they felt the county needed to go from a TU to a BU system. That was brought up at the meeting, and Commissioner Flagg mentioned that the commissioners were aware of that and were looking into it. Well, we had 9 years from 2006 to 2015 to answer that question. And in closing, the only thing that I ask, and I think everyone on this board is trying their best to serve the county. That is not my issue. My issue is spend more energy on listening to the people and put something together that is fair for everyone in Putnam County. I was told by the tax collector that the people who had been affected in Interlaken would be 24%, would pay taxes from the city. That's not a fair share. So I challenge you to find a system that is fair for all of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. Ms. Faye Sparkman, you're the next speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning in front of you, you each have a little turkey. One of the ladies in Interlochen could not make it to the meeting, so she asked me to bring them and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. They're handmade. I think she made over 100 of them.
Wow.
The next thing is, I keep getting up here asking when 315 is on the agenda to get paved. Because I got an email about 8 weeks ago saying it was there, but there were more roads that were top priority, so I still haven't gotten an answer as to when. The next thing is, we had Mr. Tim Smith at our board meeting on the first Monday of the month, and he was an excellent speaker. And Mr. Flagg, you got some big shoes to fill, because when he got done speaking, I raised my hand and I told every lady in the audience, you need to come to county commissioner meetings because he's the best hugger in the county. And that's the first time I ever saw him get red.
All right.
Anyway, we do have a meeting the first Monday of every month, and we do have speakers. So if anybody would like to come and speak at a meeting, just let me know and I'll put you on the agenda.
Thank you very kindly.
Please get me an answer on 315, please.
Okay, I'm sure that 315 will come up in the Transportation Committee meeting next week at 2 p.m. on the 24th.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very kindly. Next speaker, Mr. Tyrone Finley. Good morning. Doing great.
I didn't realize I was meeting this morning. I was on my way somewhere else, but I turned around. I just have a couple questions for you. Was the bike trail over in East Palatka?
Yes, sir.
They put the bike trail there, but they never did come back and put the bridges back for the families to cross over. I was wondering if y'all had plans to do that, or y'all just were omitting it, or what?
No, sir, we're not omitting it. There actually is a project that is pending right now for Lewis Brewer Road to extend not just the bridge, the entire street to come across over directly to Putnam County Boulevard.
Okay, do you know it? I mean, just the passageways from,
I do understand, but we're talking about the entire street coming across the trail to Putnam County Boulevard, teeing off. Instead of being on the side that it's on now, it's gonna come straight across the trail. And so pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic, trail traffic, all the traffic will be able to come all the way across without concerns about the ditch.
okay.
Okay?
All right, okay.
So that's in the works.
That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Finley. All right, Ms. Kreider, you're the next speaker.
Thank you. Linda Kreider, Palatka,
Morning.
Florida. Good morning. I wanted to speak on two different subjects. The first one is just a tremendous kudos to Don Jacobowitz for helping make the completion of the paving of the trail, the trail that will eventually be 100 miles, but right now from Palatka to the Putnam County line as part of the Palatka to St. Augustine Trail. And Don, as you know, was in the hospital part of that time and still made it all happen, and it's completed, and we're excited as we can be, and now putting the pressure on St. Johns County to get it completed into St. Augustine. The second item kind of follows on the concept of the trails and the linkage and connectivity, and a request that I've already discussed with both Don and Mike for putting Cannon Street on the paving for the next sequence of pavements. Small little tiny road from McCormick, in East Palatka, from McCormick to Old San Mateo, but a critical link for the St. Johns River to the Sea Loop, from getting that trail across and connected to the Palatka St. Augustine Trail. So I'm hoping that that will be a possibility in the next upcoming paving segment.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. We do acknowledge Don Jacobowicz's presence in the meeting there as he continues to recuperate strongly. Thank you. All right, Ms. Susan Kerner. Kerner, you're the next speaker.
I want to know one thing. When am I going to be able to sleep in my house again? It's been 4 years.
That's a good question. Why are you not sleeping in your house now?
I've been calling and trying to get an appointment, and nobody calls me back. And
Yes, ma'am. We've
the
had
noise
opportunity.
ordinance with my neighbor's dogs that bark 16 hours a day, where I haven't been able to sleep in 4 years now.
Okay.
I'd like to know when that's going to be addressed.
Okay, we are addressing amplified sound in an ordinance today. If you have nuisance dogs and you have filed the proper paperwork, with the code enforcement office. I'm sure that they're doing what they can do to follow up. We've had an
That's the
opportunity.
thing. The police say it's the animal control's job. Animal control says it's the police job.
Okay.
And they won't do anything. They won't cite them, because why should they cite them when they won't enforce the tickets and make them pay it? So nobody has done anything.
Okay.
And
So-
it's been 4 years.
Okay. Do you actually
And
have
it's
a?
3 in the morning. It's every day.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not ending.
I think you have a civil issue with your neighbor. Is that right?
No,
Okay.
no, I have an issue with all of you. Nobody will help me. I've called the sheriffs. I've called animal control. I've called everybody up here. Y'all hang up on me or tell me to move.
Okay.
Ridiculous suggestions.
Okay, Ms.
No
Susan,
solution.
let's be honest. You did the hanging up.
No,
when there was a
no,
hang
sir.
up. I'm not going to debate you, but
Well,
the
you
truth of the
can-
whole matter
you can
is
believe
when we
what you want to
spoke.
believe, but I've been begging.
Okay, do
I've
you
been begging for help,
All right,
and nobody cares.
okay. That is probably not an accurate statement. We do care, but there are limited things that we can do when neighbors are having issues. Those neighbors do have to try to seek out a path of reconciliation to
We
deal.
don't, it's not neighbors having issues.
Okay, Ms.
It's
Susan,
people that don't take care of their animals.
do you have any further comments?
I would like an answer. When are you going to address the dog ordinance?
Okay.
When?
We are addressing issues as they come, and that issue is being addressed.
You said amplified. You didn't say dog.
Okay.
Is dog included in the noise ordinance or just amplified?
Okay. Today, we're dealing with amplified sound.
So it's not going to be addressed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Have a great day. Do we have any other citizens who chose not to fill out public meeting comment cards that have commentary for this board? Good morning.
How everybody doing this morning?
Doing great, sir.
John Spells, 106 Citrus Lane. I got a question, and I'd like to get an answer from somebody, because there's 5 of you up there. Anytime there's paving or anything done, don't it supposed to go before all of y'all approval as far as paving roads and stuff?
It goes through a process. Normally, we have discussions in workshop. Once it's discussed in workshop and there is a consensus, then it's brought forward for official action to be put on a contract when it's time to be awarded. Yes,
Well,
sir.
when the county doing it, I guess it's got to be pretty well everybody's say so on it, because I noticed last week when I was, well, a week before last, when I was going up 17, I seen a dead-end road going to a business being paved, but then I go out the Barton Road and it's got potholes everywhere. So I just don't understand the system that, you know, we have developed, because I've noticed that people with a little political pull, a little money or whatever, they seem to get stuff done a whole lot easier. Even when it comes down to where the farmers got to get their ditches clean because they got their crops. I'm a farmer. I couldn't even get the ditch clean along the railroad bed. But, you know, it just seems like certain people actually get stuff done. The same gentleman that just stopped and, was talking about McCormick Road. There used to be a little wooden bridge everybody could cross to go over to Putnam Boulevard. They ripped that out. Now they got to step through the ditch in order to get to the other side of the road. And I look at it, why would you take something out when you're not even in the process of doing anything? Right there in front of his house, you got all that mud from where they call themselves put a homemade drainage system in. Every time cars drive there, it just created a mud hole, but I can go out 17 and a dead end road going to a business is getting pavement. But I just don't understand what kind of system that we actually have developed with certain people can get certain things done and everybody else got to wait on CHIP and all kind of grant money and stuff, but other people can pick the phone up and just get something done. I don't understand it.
Okay. Mr. Spell, obviously, perception is reality, and what we see, we can many times fill in the blank and decide, no, this is what's happening. If you see anything that appears to be improprieties as it relates to how the county government is operating, please take the time, report it, let us analyze and investigate and figure out whether or not it's a project that someone should be doing because it is a contracted project, or whether someone is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And we will take any action that we are required to take on anything that is illegal, immoral, and breaks the law, because, again, we have a zero tolerance to that. We've explained to Mr. Finley just a moment ago that in the name of progress, sometimes there's what we call public inconvenience when we are making progress. We are in the process. There's a project right now that is pending that will cause that part of Lewis Brewer Road that runs east and west to connect and tee into Putnam County Boulevard so that everybody, pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic, all of those entities will be blessed. The cul-de-sac, the trail, we're trying to create a win-win situation. And sometimes the delays aggravate us as well. You know, we would love to have the magic wand and make some things happen a little quicker. It's not happening at the speed we desire it to happen, but we plead for patience, you know, during the time of inconvenience. But, and I know the bridge was there, but right now the bridge is not planned to go back. The roadway is planned at this time.
But I understand that. Well, why would you mess with something when you don't even have the time or the effort of doing anything? That's just like 309. Y'all went and blocked 309. Do you actually realize the inconvenience to the people that could cut through? I come from Barton yesterday. I had to come all the way back up to Moody Road just to cross over. If you don't have the people to actually do the work right, don't let them touch it, because it's the long term of the inconvenience of people that normally could actually cut through to get from one side to the other.
Yes, sir, and your point is well taken. We will certainly be discussing that issue as well in our transportation meeting. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I address Mr. Spells?
I'd like, prefer you to address him, if you would, on break, if you would, please. Is that agreeable?
That's fine, sir.
Okay, thank you very kindly. Any other public comments? We'll close public.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name is Roger Talifer. Street edges is supposed to be in Crescent City, but technically I live in what they call Mount Royal Air Park, which is right next to, right next to the Fort Gates Ferry Road. I don't know if you're familiar with that or.
Yes, sir, we are
But I
familiar.
attended a meeting here a few months back, and you were all in agreement with, by golly, we're gonna get that road paved. And I haven't heard anything since. I'm just wondering what the status is on it, because it is it's a win-win situation for Putnam County.
Yes, sir.
The reason being, of course, they can travel, instead of going all the way around Palatka, they can travel through this road right to our area there, attend the gas stations, all the restaurants, boating, et cetera, that we have in that area. They would bring in quite a bit of revenue for our area, for Putnam County. Also, I have a property for sale in Mount Royal, right next to the road there. And I have people that come in and look at it, and they love it. They want to build tomorrow, but they see a car going on that road 40 miles an hour, and they're out of there. They say, wait a minute, there's no housewife that wants to put up with that, clean her house every day because of that dirt road.
Sure.
So I was just wondering if it's going to continue, because I heard we may lose a grant. Do we have a grant on that?
Okay, I'm not familiar with losing any grants, but we do have Public Works leaders in this room. They will certainly be honored to have a conversation with you.
Very good.
They are here, they're here, over here in our conversation now. They can deal with that. When we're talking about transportation issues, we all receive updates in a monthly workshop, and we'll be getting updates next week, next Tuesday at the 2 p.m. Transportation meeting, and you're certainly welcome to come, and we can drill down on those particular issues. Any specifics you want today, we do have our department leaders here, and they can talk with you about it.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
because, Putnam County, I would like to see them advance.
Yes, sir, we
And,
do as
It
well.
would be tens of thousands of dollars that really we would get in Putnam County because of building houses there, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, sir. It's important to us, and they do have the answers.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming. Yes, sir. Any additional public comments? We'll close the public comment section of our meeting. We will move to the consent agenda. There are items on this agenda that have been pulled, just again, for the benefit of the record, and I will review those as I get to them. In chronological order, list of committee minutes and recommendations distributed to become part of the record. The committee minutes is Transportation Committee meeting of 10/27/2015 and Recreation Committee meeting as well. And then the list of correspondence is also itemized and listed. List of general services, list of surplus inventory, item C, Item D, Administration Sheriff's Budget Amendment Resolution, $3,039 to record revenue and allow for the expenditure of SCAAP grant funds for housing alien inmates. Sheriff, item E, request for expenditure from the Special Law Enforcement Trust Fund, number 119, in the amount of $5,788, 15% required crime prevention expenditure. Item F, EMS, Florida Department of Health EMS Program, county grant application in the amount of $5,023, funds to improve and expand the county's pre-hospital EMS system. Item G, Administration, Florida Department of Economic Opportunity Agreement in the amount of $40,000, competitive Florida Partnership Grant. Item H, Administration, SHIP Housing Rehabilitation Funds up to $30,000, Jeremy and Melissa Ray. Item I, E911 Resolution, renaming Theater Road to Fairgrounds Road. Item J is one of those items that was recognizing a public change order. That item has not been pulled and is no longer a part of this consent agenda. Item K, Public Works, Addendum Number 2, Stone Engineering Group. That item has been pulled and is no longer a part of this consent agenda. Item L, Public Works, Addendum Number 1, Ayers and Associates, $152,000 engineering services for the Dog Branch Drainage Improvement Project, and the source is a state grant. Commissioners, we do have item K, and Public Works is prepared to speak on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I believe I can offer a real brief explanation of those items if you will permit me to do so.
Item K, sir.
Yeah, item K is been pulled pending the preparation and solicitation of a formal request for proposals, request for qualifications based on the review of statutory requirements by the county attorney, and under his advice, we will be proceeding to prepare a formal request for qualifications and solicitation of a request for qualifications. That's why that's being pulled.
All right. And item J actually is just going through the transportation
Yes,
workshop
that's
procedure.
been pulled pending review by the Transportation Committee.
Okay, item L.
Item L is simply the formalization of an agreement with Ayers and Associates for the engineering and permitting services for the Dog Branch Drainage Improvements Project. That's the grant amount that was provided by the state. Actually, Ayers and Associates has already been authorized to proceed with performing some work so that they won't be delayed, and we'll be able to hopefully have most of their work completed by the time the legislature is through with its session, so that we will be able to assure legislative leaders that this will be a shovel-ready project, so that our consultants working for us on our behalf in Tallahassee will be able to assure legislative leaders that this is a shovel-ready project as they try to solicit construction funds for this project.
Okay, Commissioners, are there any other items that need further discussion? Any items to be pulled?
I have none.
I have none.
I have none, sir.
I have none.
I'd like to entertain a motion at this time to approve the consent agenda as presented with the understanding that 2 items were pulled.
So moved.
Properly
Second.
moved and second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Tim Hoteling from San Mateo.
Yes, sir.
And on item L, the Dog Branch Drainage Improvement Project,
Yes, sir.
requested, in previous meetings, John Spell had made comment that, undisputed comment that there were trees and other things dumped into that thing, that if they were cleaned out, things would be a little bit more palatable for your taxpayers that get flooded out from time to time.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to understand why you couldn't do basic housekeeping as you progress through the more serious process that Mr. Nemitz has already explained of the engineering of that project to keep all those runoff farm chemicals under control. But if a relative housekeeping effort on that area would make life easier I'd like to know why we
Okay.
couldn't do that.
For the benefit of the public that have gathered here, Mr. Hoteling is raising the issue that was discussed, engineering services for Dog Branch Drainage Improvement Project. And I'd like Mr. Nimitz, if you'll just come very quickly, just drill down on the memo that you sent concerning the questions that were raised there, and if you'll address the commission, please.
In regards to the cleaning he's referring to, we don't have the ability to do that, the resources.
Mr. Nimitz, pull that microphone if you would. Very,
We do not have the ability to do that work right now.
Okay, some of it is based on regulatory issues and also equipment as well as cost?
The equipment and cost mainly, yes, and there is a regulatory aspect.
Okay. I think progress is being made. It's not being made at the speed that all of us want it to be. But at the same time, when you start talking about going up and down that canal, at some point in time, if the proper studies are not in place and all you're doing is just guessing your way through it, it's going to create a problem. The magnitude of the project is certainly overwhelming for county resources. Mr. Hoteling.
I don't have the basis of knowledge to go any further, but I suspect Mr. Spells will, and the good reverend might dispute that, so.
Okay, and it's fine for them to dispute it. We're relying on our engineers, we're relying on the experts, and what this commission wants is proactivity and forward movement, and that's what we see in this particular case. Thank you, Mr. Nimitz. At this time, we will take a 5-minute recess, and the board will come back together with Ms. Lisa Suarez with code enforcement abatement cases.
agenda is gone. My monitor works. Try something new this week.
Okay, the Board of Commissioners are back in session. We are going through several code enforcement cases. Individuals that are here, that are representatives of any of these cases, when we call the case number, please make sure that your presence is made known to us. And we will certainly give you an opportunity if you desire to speak to us. Once we move past the case, it is not the intention of this commission to go back in a retro perspective to deal with any cases that we move past. So we ask that you please be attentive to the case that we are actually addressing at each specific point. Each case will stand on its own merits. We will not be on a roll and rubber stamp and just do things just because it's there. Each case has its individual case number, has its individual and specific circumstance, and we will hear the case and we will respond accordingly. Case number item 8A, case number 2008-0387, a request for abatement, Sustain Glover, 745 Junction Road, Crescent City. Is there anyone here in reference to this case? Anyone here in present? The record reflects that no one is present. Ms. Juarez, if you will present this case to the board.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
This case with the property was first seen November 16, 2009. There was an abandoned home and a care premises issue. A notice of violation and hearing was sent out November 17, 2009. The case went before the special magistrate February 18, 2010, and he found the property to be in violation and gave the owners until April 26, 2010 to comply, or a fine of $25 a day would commence. There was also a $100 administration fee that was charged. There was no change on the property. The case went back before the special magistrate April 18, 2013, and he ordered the property to be abated and foreclosed upon. An issue did come up concerning the actual ownership of the property. Staff checked onto the ownership status and found the property had gone through the probate in Hillsborough County. The ownership was also first noticed, they were also notified, and then staff is requesting at this time the authorization to abate this property. And it's a two-story house that's been boarded up, and the roof has had damage to it, and we've had no other contact.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. District 1.
Ms. Suarez, I just wanted to ask, you said that when you got the ownerships straight, that you contacted them. What was their response?
They didn't respond. The green card just came back, and that's why we've,
So they signed it, so they got it.
well, it's been posted on the property, yes. It wasn't signed. They didn't sign the green card. That's why everything's ever been posted.
So they do know about it? Okay, I just want to be sure because of the ownership glitch.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, ownership glitch was because it was et al., and we wanted to make sure we got all the property owners notified, and we did, and that's why we posted everything on site as well as at the complex.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, you've heard the presentation of this case, number 2008-0387. Recommended action is authorize abatement of this violation. What is the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of case number 2008-0387 for abatement.
Proper motion?
Second.
Second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item B, request for abatement, case number 2013-0605. Robert McElroy.
If I could, can we back up to the previous case? Seriously, but you listed as a mobile home, but are these the photographs that are supposed to be attached?
That was a mistake. It is not a mobile home. It's an actual home.
Under the summary highlights, yeah, it is the two-story home.
It is a two-story home.
So let the record reflect the summary highlights there, that
Okay.
abandoned mobile home should be abandoned two-story home.
Correct. It's
Thank
a
you so
typo.
much, Commissioner.
I'm the same, I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir, nothing like being sure. All right, item 8B, request for abatement, case number 2013-0605, Robert McElroy, 106 Park Road, Interlaken. Is there anyone here representing this case or affiliated in any way, shape, form, or fashion to this case? Let the record reflect that no one responded as an affiliate of this case. At this time, Ms. Suarez, if you would present the facts of the case.
This property was first seen December 2nd, 2013, and it's in an abandoned, unsafe home on the property. It's open to the public, and inside it was stripped of wiring and all the, anything that was valuable. It also includes a deck toward the back that was unpermitted, and it is unsafe, and the pool was removed. A notice of unsafe building was sent out December 5th, 2013. A notice of violation and hearing was sent out April 1st, 2014. The special magistrate heard the case on May 15, 2014, and gave the owners until July 14, 2014 to bring the property into compliance, or a fine of $25 a day would begin. The $100 administration fee was also charged. Nothing happened. The case went back before the special magistrate August 21st, 2014, and he ordered a lien to be placed against the property. Again, nothing seemed to be moving forward. On January 29, 2015, staff sent out a notice of hearing to consider possible abatement and foreclosure. On April 16, 2015, the special magistrate heard the request for authorization to abate the violation or foreclose on the property, and he issued the order. So at this time, staff is requesting authorization for the board to proceed with the abatement.
Commissioners, you've heard the facts of case number 2013-0605 concerning 106 Park Road, Interlaken.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Hammonds, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hammonds, I believe this is the one I came to you about the other day, about there might be a potential owner.
It's one of two, yes.
That would like to come forward and purchase this property. Have they made contact with you about that?
They have not.
I have a comment or two on this particular property. This is a property right after I was elected that there was a serious drug issue in that area, and this was one of the squatter homes that the drug users were using. And I mean, I hate to see it torn down because it looks like it's a shell of a structure that could be rehabbed, but for what it does to the neighborhood, I have no problem with it.
If I may, that's why these abatements are at the top of our priority list in terms of code enforcement, is to get rid of the attractive nuisance.
Thank you, sir. Further questions or discussion? What is the pleasure of this board on this case?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the recommended action of staff.
Second.
Proper motion and a second that we follow the recommended action on case number 2013-0605, authorizing proceeding with abatement of the violation. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The next case for consideration is request for abatement, case number 2011-00805, James Cherry, 108 Milton Avenue, Interlaken. Is there anyone here present that is related, affiliated, associated with this case? Seeing no movement, the record reflects that there's no one responding as a connection to this case. Will you present the case, please, Ms. Suarez?
Yes, sir. The property was first seen September 28, 2011. There was an abandoned mobile home on the property. Neighbors indicated that many people were coming and going and stealing stuff from the mobile home. Notice of unsafe structure was sent out to the owner. Nothing positive happened at the site. A notice of violation and hearing was sent out March 27, 2012. The special magistrate heard the request on May 17, 2012, and found the property to be in violation and gave the owner until July 1, 2012 to bring the property into compliance, or a fine of $25 a day would begin, and the $100 administration fee. Nothing happened. The case went back before the special magistrate August 30, 2013, and he ordered a lien to be recorded. The lien was recorded September 11, 2012. The property was purchased via tax deed sale to a Mr. Burns on January 9, 2013. Staff contacted Mr. Burns, and he stated clearly that he had no interest in coming into compliance. He stated that he would deed the property over to someone else. On May 22, 2013, staff found out that Mr. Cherry was now the owner of the property. Mr. Cherry indicated that he intended to make the repairs to the mobile home and move into it. Mr. Cherry put in a building permit application on June 13, 2013. He obtained the permit July 10, 2013, and called for an extension of time. Staff gave him 30 days. On October 11, 2013, staff found that there was no activity on the permit since July 3rd of 2013. So on January 16, 2014, Mr. Chair requested another extension of time on the building permit. The building division gave him an 180-day extension. Nothing happened with the permit, nothing happened on site, and the permit expired October 10th, 2014. Again, nothing happened on the case, so it went back before the special magistrate June 18, 2015. He ordered the county to proceed with abatement and foreclosure, and at this time, staff is requesting the board to give authorization to abate the property. And it's just, they've just destroyed the front half, and it's just been gutted out.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Juarez. Just for a point of clarification, our summary, the first sentence says the property was first seen by code enforcement on September 28, 2015.
Correct.
You read 2011.
11 is correct.
What we need from you and your department, if there are revisions or corrections, please make sure that you note that, because we're
Okay.
voting on what's before us.
Okay.
And same thing with the mobile home versus that, and we don't want a technicality to get what the action that we take to be thrown out. So the case actually, property was first seen in 2011, so that was not revised or corrected on our copies that we have in our packets. Commissioners, are there any questions or concerns?
Yeah, there's a couple more dates in there that we should get clarification on. When it went back to the special magistrate, was that October 30, 2013, as it says here, or was that 2012?
What line are you on?
It's right in the middle.
Yeah, that would be 2012.
From reading it, it appears to me it would make sense that it was 2012, but it says 2013.
You talking about when it went back to Mr. Burns?
Read the specific sentence, counsel.
2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. It's like the 10th sentence. Nothing happened. The case went back before the special magistrate on August 30, 2013, and he ordered the lien to be recorded.
And the lien was recorded on September
September 11,
2012. So
2012,
should that be 2012 that it went back before the special magistrate for chronological purposes?
Yes. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, counsel. Any further comments on case number 2011-00805? What is the pleasure of this commission?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval for case number 2011-00805 for abatement as staff has recommended.
Second.
Have a proper motion and a second to authorize staff to proceed with the abatement process. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very kindly. The next case coming before us is case number 2012-00145, Michael Osborne, 108 Indiana Street, Crescent City. Is there anyone here related, connected, affiliated with this case in any way, shape, form, or fashion? Let the record reflect no one indicated that they are connected to this case. At this time, Ms. Juarez, if you will present the facts of the case.
Yes. The property was first seen March 29, 2012. It's a carport that was found in deteriorated condition in the mobile home needing some repairs. A notice of violation of hearing was sent out May 10, 2012. The owner, Mr. Osborne, called and claimed that he was ready for a recheck, and when staff went out July 2nd, found out that the permit required that he needed a permit for the work that was needed to be done. Staff called Mr. Osborne and explained that the permit would be needed and scheduled a meeting with Don Peckham, who's the plans examiner for the county, to review the case. Staff removed the case from the special magistrate docket to allow for the meeting with the plans examiner. Discussion with Mr. Peckham indicated that Mr. Osborne has submitted the paperwork for the permit, but he was going to have to conduct an on-site inspection. On October 4th, Mr. Peckham indicated that he met Mr. Osborne's daughter at site, and the carport was in very bad shape and needs major repairs if it was to be saved. So the daughter intended to tell her father that he should just demolish the structure. Plans were submitted but were inadequate. Time passed, so staff received word that Mr. Osborne was in jail and stated that once he was released, he planned to make the necessary repairs. Staff checked on Mr. Osborne on December 2nd, 2012, and found that he had been released from jail. The special magistrate heard the case on March 20th, 2014, and found the property to be in violation, and he gave the owner until May 19th, 2014 to comply, or a fine of $25 a day would begin, and the $100 administration fee was also charged. The owner's father called and told staff that he was going to foreclose on his son. Nothing happened, so the case went back before the special magistrate June 12, 2014, and he ordered that the county to record the lien. The property continued to decline, and neighbors started calling concerning rodents and snakes thriving on the property. The case went back before the special magistrate May 21, 2015, and he ordered the property to be abated and foreclosed upon. So at this time, staff is requesting from the board authorization to abate the property.
Chairman.
And I also want to add, I did speak to Mr. Osborne, and, you know, again, he indicates that he's going to make the repairs, but no permit has been obtained and nothing's moved forward, and we've been dealing with this since 2012.
Mr. Lible.
Again, this one's referred to as a mobile home, and it's clearly a block structure. And are we talking just the carport or the home
No, we're
also?
talking about the carport.
Okay.
Okay, so you were making reference to both, but the issue that is in violation of the code for abatement is just the carport?
Well, there are violations inside the home as well, but, I mean, right now, what we're really concerned about is the unsafeness of the carport itself and how close it is to the neighboring property.
Okay.
So I would like,
When you look at the picture, does the picture look like it's is it a mobile home?
To me, it appears I see some mobile home in the background, but they've added on a block structure to the front of it. So
Correct.
it's-
Okay, so it's, so it's a combo home.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to clarify this. So we would tear down the carport, but in doing so, we would have to take the whole property.
Yes.
And the mobile home is of value and could be fixed.
Well, I'm not certain if it could be fixed or not, but, I mean, if he gave us.
Okay.
Just one clarification, we're not taking any property.
Right.
Okay.
We're not taking property. All we're doing is abating the issue.
Okay.
If at the very least, we're forcing their hand to do something now. But we're getting approval to remove that garage.
So we would have a lien against the property for what it cost us to remove the garage. Okay, thanks.
Further questions on case number 2012-00145? What's the pleasure of this commission?
Move approval, staff recommendations.
We have a proper motion.
Second.
And a second that proper approval and authorization for abatement on case number 2012-00145. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Like sign, hearing none, motion carries. Item 8E, request for abatement, case number 2012-0150, Sonia Joseph, 134 Sumter Street, Flora Home. Is there anyone here representing this property owner? Let the record reflect no one indicated that they are connected to this case. We'll have presentation of the facts.
The property was first seen February 27, 2012. The yard was a mess, and there was a burnt-out RV on the property, as well as some trash and debris. The courtesy notice was sent out. Staff allowed for the owner to respond to the courtesy notice. When she didn't, a notice of violation was sent out May 30, 2012. The property owner called and indicated that she could find no one to help her fix the violations. Nothing happened, and staff went out to the sent out a notice of violation and hearing on July 30, 2012. The special magistrate heard the case on September 19, 2012, and he found the property to be in violation and gave the owner until November 1, 2012 to bring the property into compliance, or a fine of $25 a day would begin. And a $100 administration fee also was assessed. The case went back before the special magistrate on March 20, 2013, and he found that the violation still exists, and he ordered the lien to be recorded. The case went back before the special magistrate on August 20, 2015, and he ordered the county to abate the violation or foreclose on the property. Staff is requesting at this time the authorization to abate the property. And I did speak to Ms. Sonia Joseph, and she had contacted some of our demolition contractors, because I sent her a list of our current active contractors. And Mr. Davis had called me about it, and she never responded to his bid request or anything, so it still remains with all the debris, and of course, people have scavenged through what they can and have left everything else behind.
Thank you, Ms. Juarez. Case number 2012-0150, what is the pleasure of this commission?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval for case number 2012-0150, as staff has abated the property.
Proper motion.
Second.
It's proper second. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Case number 2005-0138, Beatrice Holloway, 224 Ewers Road, Crescent City. Are there anyone that represents Beatrice or Katie Holloway on this case, 224 Ewers Road in Crescent City? Let the record reflect there's no one that indicates they are connected with this case. We will have the facts presented.
This property was first seen on February 14, 2005. There was an unsafe building on the property. Notice of violation was sent out on February 23, 2005, and on March 28, 2005, notice of hearing was sent out. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, who were the previous owners, went before the special magistrate on May 20, 2005, even though they were not scheduled to go on the docket. They asked for a 90-day extension, and it was given. An heir died, and it created some ownership issues with the property. The Carters came in on March 10, 2006, and indicated they no longer had any interest on the property. Staff sent out notices to all the new, of the new hearings on the case, and the special magistrate heard the case on May 18, 2006, and found the property to be in violation and gave the new owners until June 20, 2006 to bring the property into compliance, or a fine of $25 a day would begin, and a $100 administration fee was also charged. The property continued to deteriorate. A letter concerning abatement and/or foreclosure was sent out March 30, 2015, and the special magistrate heard the request on June 18, 2015, and ordered the property to be abated and foreclosed upon. So at this time, staff is requesting the board to authorize abatement on the property.
Ms. Suarez, can you tell us why this case was blessed with longevity?
Because we had issues with the ownership, and we had to wait for them to go through the probate court and everything, and then we gave the new owners time to try to comply and try to do the right thing, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
Good answer. Mr. Lyman.
Okay, so I think you just answered. The Carters are the new owners, bought from the Holloways.
Yeah, the Carters were the old owners and the Holloways are the new owners now.
It's all
and
clear and
It's all
sealed,
clear,
signed, and delivered?
and they
Okay.
just
Very well.
don't want
I'll
nothing to
offer a
do with it.
motion.
Proper motion,
Staff recommendations.
Second.
proper second. Further discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item G, request for abatement, case number 2008-0636, Verona V LLC, 115 Cherokee Avenue, Interlaken. Are there any representatives of the corporation for this case here? Any agents, any representatives, distant relatives? Let the record reflect that there is no movement or any response to anyone being connected with this case. We will have the presentation of the facts.
The property was first seen June 17, 2008, and this was a mobile home in very poor condition on the property. It's been left open and accessible to all the weather elements. The notice of violation in here was sent out June 17th. The case went before the special magistrate on August 28, 2008, and he found the property to be in violation and gave the owners until September 29, 2008 to bring the property into compliance, or a fine of $25 a day would begin, and the $100 administration fee was also assessed. Nothing happened. It went back before the special magistrate December 10th, 2009, and he ordered that the county to foreclose and or abate the property. When we did a property appraiser search, a new owner appeared on the records March 11, 2011, so we sent a notice to the new owners advising what was going on, and the property remained in derelict condition. The case went back before the special magistrate July 17, 2014, and he once again ordered the county to abate and foreclose the property. The property went up on tax deed sale June 10, 2015, but it was redeemed by the Verona 5 LLC. Which were the people that we also noticed previously. So at this time, staff is requesting authorization to abate this property. And it's just the, again, it's just the shell of a mobile home. Everything's been taken out that's valuable from the inside.
Thank you very kindly. Commissioners, you have case number 2008-0636 before you. No one is here to represent. What is the pleasure of this?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of case 2008-0636 for abatement.
Proper motion?
Second.
Second. Further discussion?
I recognize his name quite often.
Own a lot of property.
Are we about through their list of properties?
I don't think so.
No.
Where this
They-
group is,
Can't you round them all up and do them at once? I have nothing further.
this group is based out of Hollywood, Florida.
Yes, we know.
Maybe they think this is Hollywood, California. Okay, all right. What is the,
You've got a motion and a second.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, item H, request for abatement, case number 2009-00891, JWB Investments, 110 David Drive, Interlaken. Is there anyone here representing the investors? Record reflect, there's no one that's indicating a connection to JWB Investments or this case. We will now hear the facts.
The property was first seen October 16, 2009. It was an unsafe mobile home until it fell to the ground. A notice of violation hearing was sent out October 16, 2009. A special magistrate heard the case December 10, 2009, and found the property to be in violation and gave the owners until February 16, 2010 to comply, or a fine of $25 a day would begin. The $100 administration fee was also assessed. Nothing happened. Staff talked with the owner on March 9, 2010, and she claimed that she didn't know anything about it, even though she signed the green card on the certified mail. Nothing happened for a while, and on April 19, 2010, a notice of hearing to foreclose and abate was sent out. On June 17, 2010, the special magistrate ordered the county to foreclose and or abate the violation. The owner called July 12, 2010, and claimed to be working on the property. Inspection was done by staff on October 3, 2010, and showed the mobile home had collapsed. Nothing continued to happen, and the case went back before the special magistrate January 16, 2014, where he once again ordered the county to abate the violation and or foreclose on the property. So at this time, staff is requesting authorization to proceed with the abatement. And again, I'm the one that spoke to the lady, and you know, she continued to tell me that she was gonna do something about it, and the property's still in the same condition. And not only did she sign the green cards, but I also made sure I posted every single notice because it was an investment company.
Thank you for your thoroughness and your competency in handling these cases. Commissioners, you have 2009-00891.
Move approval of staff recommendations.
Proper motion on the floor for
Second
authorization. Proper second. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Do you have anything else that's for the good of the order?
Nope.
We have an open case that I'd like for you all to follow up on about this abandoned boat in the canal over in the Satsuma area. And my understanding is that the citizens say that they have waited for years. They have begged and pleaded, and it's being tossed around from code enforcement to FWC and to the sheriff's office and to all of the agencies that would have jurisdiction. I'm sure the case is somewhere. If you can give us an update on
Yes,
what's
sir.
happening with the case and what will get us to abatement, because it's absolutely unacceptable for that dilapidated, used-to-be boat to be in that canal affecting that many people, and then what's happening up on the land is not any better. And it's absolutely ridiculous for the citizens in that neighborhood to have to deal with that every single day of their life.
Yes, sir, we do have a problem with that. That's one of at least two that we have. We did have a conversation with the attorney's office, and to this point have been advised to leave it alone. We're dealing with what's on the land. However, once you get into the water, you get into maritime law, and it's something that even Game and Fish advise us, stay away from it.
Okay.
Because they won't even touch it.
I will not in any way, shape, form, or fashion recommend anybody to violate what legal say, but for legal to tell us to stay away from this, that is not acceptable to this chairman. Somebody has to deal with it, and whatever we have to do, this is America, and it's no way, shape, form, or fashion that these citizens should be subjected to that. I don't care what kind of law it is, somebody need to know whose jurisdiction it is and how it needs to be dealt with. I'm not going to go back and face these citizens with us, everybody saying stay away from it. We don't have the option.
Understood.
Yes, sir.
We will gladly stick our neck out and go do it.
Somebody, legal need to tell us
but-
how to stick it and where to stick it, but we need to make sure that this is done. I'm not going back to those citizens for me to tell them that everybody say hands off and we can't do anything and we're not gonna do anything. We're going to do something, and somebody's gonna help us do it all the way up to wherever we need to go. Yes, sir.
We had the same problem with the boats there in front of the city dock along that stretch of River Street.
Got a new set of them out there now.
Well, we had some sunken ones. We got those removed, so there's no reason we can't get these others, this other boat removed. As Commissioner said, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was gonna make the point that for a boat to be derelict and I hate to use the word compliance, or be eligible for FWC to use the derelict boat funds on it, it can be floating. It just has to be abandoned.
Well, the pieces of this boat, Your Honor, is falling into the canal. I've got the pictures. I mean, and these people
It's
have
perfect.
begged, and they're telling me it's years now.
So we contact FWC and see if they've used their abandoned boat monies this year and get these two on the list. And that's as good, those are sovereign waters of the state of Florida.
When you get into a man-made canal, FWC typically won't touch it.
Well, it's God-made by now, as long as it's been there. God done endorsed it.
I think Captain Flagg should lead that boat out of there.
Well, I want council to dig deeper, and FWC and everybody concerned, because this is a real issue. And hands off, as far as I'm concerned, that's not acceptable. And I need this commission to let's get some bite in this bark.
Well, even if, all right, say if the state agency can't deal with it, that it is a abandoned subdivision. Those canals do belong to the subdivision. If you can prove that, why can't the county or the sheriff's department deal with those boats? Simply pull them up on a trailer and take them to landfill and do away with them.
Commissioner Lible, you're exactly right. You know, out in our area, we have lake bottoms that are owned by private individuals. So if that boat's touching that lake bottom, there's a
Just need to know
remedy.
ownership of that canal.
Exactly. There's a remedy there for it.
Well, I just don't want it to be hands-off and years to pass there. It's just not fair to these citizens.
Well, if they sink, it's 3 times the price to deal with it, and a lot more time.
Well, the bottom of this particular boat is full of water because the boat is slowly sinking, and like I say, it's just piece by piece falling apart. So, I mean, it's no hope for rehab on this. And the house has code signs on it and things of that nature, and I think, again, either we enable or we fix. And right now, we're becoming enablers for these areas that we're talking about that's thrown in the flesh. The sheriff's department they've been there by land, they've been there by water, and they don't need us to come for spectatorship. It's time for some deliverance.
I think that, if I might, I think the issue on this was the ownership of the canal that it's in. If I recall, we had looked at the plat, there was 2 of them we were looking at, and I'm not sure exactly which one this is, but one of them, the plat did not dedicate that canal. One of them, the canal wasn't dedicated to the public. So we didn't have, it's not a county right-of-way per se, or county area. The other one, the canal, it was shown on the plat, but it didn't appear to be included in what was actually platted.
And
So there were issues with ownership, and then one of them where I think we determined that it was potentially private ownership by a developer. There was no, they didn't exist anymore. The tax appraisers, tax assessor's office didn't even show an ownership of that piece of land. So the issue is really ownership. And if the state is saying, well, we don't consider this our responsibility, if we don't consider it sovereign submerged lands, even though it's connected to the St. Johns River, that's where you have your problem.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
what did FWC exactly tell you?
Specifically, when you get into man-made canals,
Okay.
that they claim no ownership, jurisdiction, et cetera.
So,
I've had troubles with that for years.
so if you're in that canal fishing without a fishing license, they gonna write you a ticket?
You'll have to ask them.
I'm sure they are, so that puts them on the hook, as I see it.
Good analogy, Commissioner.
I mean, the way I see it, my reading of sovereign submerged lands is this is connected to and part of a navigable waterway, and it ought to be Fish and Wildlife that's responsible for it.
I agree.
That's my position on my reading of who really ought to be doing something about this. Why they don't want to, why, I don't know. Is it a monetary issue for them? Is it?
They got the money.
Hard to say, but we can follow up further with them again and push them harder for certain.
Okay. Again, 0 is not acceptable. For us to do nothing, to say hands off, for us to look the other way, the citizens are not looking the other way, and we're not either. So at this time, whatever needs to happen, take it up to legal, and legal need to make something happen. There's no magic wand, but we need to make something happen.
On the one that we have on Tarpon Boulevard, the sunken boat on Tarpon Boulevard, I did get in touch with the property owner, the owner of the boat, and he does have some medical issues, and as soon as he gets released from the doctor, which he's saying will be sometime the first part of December, he will be back to take his boat back out. Of course, he'll have to pump it out, but it is a viable boat, and it does have a current decal and everything on it, so he does intend to get that out once he gets cleared from his doctor. On the other one, I talked to 2 different lieutenants with FWC, and both told me that they had no jurisdiction on it. So the only thing I'm left to do is try to take it before the special magistrate, and I do have it scheduled for next month.
Okay. As long as we're getting some positive traction on this, I'm satisfied. Make sure, again, at the end of the day, there's no ball dropping contest. It needs to come to our attention when people are saying we're at an impasse and things are not happening. It's just time. It's time.
Yeah. But
Because
I
people on
did
both sides of the
contact-
canal are being affected there. And they pretty much laughed at me and say, well, yeah, right, we're gonna get something done this time, right? Yeah, we've been told that for the past few years. And so that does not make me feel good as a legislator.
Well, I don't know about years. I know we were just notified this year. And then when we condemned the house, we also included the boat. And then again, we're just moving through the process of the special magistrate and the whole code enforcement and process. But as far as the other one, again, I was just notified both of the issues. And
Well,
I've
as
been
far as
trying
I'm
to deal with
concerned-
other counties and reach out to other counties to see how they deal with it. And everybody's pretty much,
Are we in San Mateo or Bostwick on this one?
This one is actually the one that's in Satsuma.
yes.
Okay.
San Mateo.
There's a couple
The
Tarpon.
the one on San, well,
But
the
no,
one on
Tarpon
San
is
Jan.
not- Yeah, the San Jan is the one I'm
San
talking
Jan is the
about.
one he's talking about.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, thank you very kindly. Commissioners, we have a public hearing that is scheduled for 9:50, and of course, it is 10:36. And so we are certainly on point here with the proposed amendment to Section 2-105 of the Procurement Code relating to local preference, reducing the local preference threshold from 10% to 3%. Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The county's current local preference policy under its purchasing ordinance provides for an option for local bidders to exercise the local preference when they are within 10% of the apparent low bidder who may be located outside the confines of the county. At a recent workshop of the board, you indicated a desire to review that and to look at the possibility of lowering that percentage to something less than 10%. The county attorney has prepared an amendment to the purchasing ordinance that would reflect a local preference policy option of 3%. So that is in your agenda for your consideration. The objective, of course, is to try to generate more competitive bidding in various and sundry projects where the local preference will apply. It doesn't apply to projects where federal or state funding are involved.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Leary. We certainly want all concerned to know that this is not in any way, shape, form, or fashion an attempt to minimize the importance and the priority of this commission's support of local preference there. I had a discussion and conversation as late as yesterday with individuals who are concerned about, how we do business and who we do business with. We certainly want our local contractors, local vendors to be at the table with us. We just do not want to compromise efficiency. We do not want to compromise fiscal responsibility as it relates to this board. We want our local vendors to be as competent, as qualified, and operate in excellence as we would any contractor doing business with the county. Commissioner Pelletier and then Commissioner Lible.
I didn't have my hand up, sorry.
You mentioned it in the workshop.
Oh, I did, but not today. I thought you were calling me.
I was calling you so that you could have your say in pushing
just-
us forward. You pushed us forward, so I wanted to give you that.
I'm sorry. Caught me totally off guard. As Commissioner Flagg said, this is not to cut out any of our local contractors, absolutely not at all. But we were not getting any contact from outside bidders that were showing interest in work to be done in this county, just thereby keeping, I think, everybody on a good level field of doing the best job at the lowest price to save the county money. And that's the only reason that's got pushed forward. It's not to push anybody out. It's just to tighten up the playing field a little bit and put everybody on the same level.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lible.
I have two questions. One for council. Is this a single hearing issue, agenda item? So this is it today?
Yes.
Okay, with that being said, I'm a little nervous about jumping from 10 to 3%, 7% difference. I don't know how, Mr. Leary, if you can help me, how we got to 3%. Weren't we discussing 5 at some point?
Well, we got to 3% because at your workshop, you discussed both 5 and 3, and I came away from that workshop with what I felt was a general consensus opinion of the board that you wanted to consider 3. Some of you may have had a different opinion. Apparently, Mr. Manning had that same opinion because he prepared the amendment based on 3. But I thought the conversation lent itself towards 3 more than 5.
Okay.
Commissioner Harris?
I was one of the ones that wanted it to be 5. I would be very pleased to move it to 5. I think 3 is too close, and I just hate to see us come down that much. I truly support the local preference and hate to change it at all. But when we aren't getting bids, we've got to do something. I'd like to see us go at 5.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of concur with Commissioner Harris and liable. Getting halfway there might produce the results we're looking for, and if it doesn't, we can always revisit it, in my opinion. So,
I thought I had 2 3s and 2 5s. I was gonna be a 4.
You can be a 4 if you want.
but you're actually a 3.
I'm like Mr. Manning and Mr. Leary. I thought the consensus was 3. I don't have a problem with 5, but we had to make some move somewhere, and 10 certainly wasn't a good number.
I want to try it at 5.
I don't have an issue with that.
I smell 3 votes. Somebody make a motion.
Mr. Leary?
Well, of course, you're free to change that number at this hearing to any number that you desire it to be. So, I mean, that's what the public hearing's all about and your deliberations. So
let me ask
this
a
is
question.
a draft that's before you.
Do we need to vote down what is before us with 3 and then make a motion for 5?
No, I think you can deliberate and change it and then vote on the change.
Okay.
Your motion would be for, your motion would be for what's before you, with the exception that it be 5% instead of 3.
Okay.
Mr.
This time
Chairman.
I'd like to open the public hearing. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We got to go to the public.
Okay, open the public hearing. Are there any citizens that are here to discuss the proposed amendment to section 2-105 of the procurement code? We'll close the public hearing, go back to commissioner deliberations. Commissioner Harvey.
Motion offered.
We have a Commissioner
Changing
Harvey had
it
the
to
floor first.
5%.
Commissioner Harvey had the floor first, sir. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to pass an ordinance amending section 2-105 of the Putnam County Procurement Code relating to local preference, to reduce the local preference threshold from 10% to 5%, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And item B, down on page 154, would also show that it would be 5% instead of 3%.
Second.
Proper motion and a second for amending section 2-105 of the procurement code. Further discussion? Council, any further?
No.
Okay. What's before you is the proposed amendment to the ordinance that only changes a bid to be within 5% of the price submitted by the lowest qualified non-local bidder. District 1,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 3, yes. It's unanimous. Item 10 on the agenda, Planning and Development, public hearing. First item is amendment to the regulation of amplified sound. This is a public hearing. Once the case is presented to the commission, we will open the floor for the public. The first speaker will be Charles Douglas. Second speaker will be John Berquist, the Honorable, and we will entertain any others following those two. Good morning, Mr. Hammonds.
Good morning, Commissioners. This ordinance, as you know, we've discussed over the last year or so in several workshops. We did have it scheduled for a hearing once before. And again, we brought back to another workshop.
The mic a little bit closer. I see some people trying to hear you.
Brought it to another workshop recently, which, again, we got direction from the board. And what you have here is the result of that last workshop. Specifically, this is a very abbreviated ordinance. It corrects some of the problems that we had with the existing ordinance, which certainly made it difficult at best to enforce. This ordinance specifically deals only with amplified sound, nothing else. Secondly, it primarily is oriented toward that nighttime period of time from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Thirdly, it specifically adopts a plainly audible standard that is easier for a sheriff deputy in the field to enforce without equipment and that sort of thing, rather than having specific decibel numbers like the previous ordinance did have. It specifically limits, on page 158 in your section, maximum permissible sound levels. No person shall operate or cause to be operated any source of amplified sound in such a manner as to create a sound level that is plainly audible at 100 feet or more from the property line of the property generating the sound during the nighttime. Okay, per our discussions, that is specifically what you asked for. Secondly, no person shall operate or cause to be operated any source of amplified sound in such a manner as to create a sound level that is plainly audible 50 feet or more from property line of the property generating the sound in cases where you have designated a noise-sensitive area. Okay. As you can see, the exemptions immediately below that, the exemptions are only safety-oriented or emergency vehicle-oriented exemptions. Nothing else is exempt. And then lastly, specifically, this removes the special magistrate process entirely. So it basically takes code enforcement out of the enforcement of this thing. And secondly, it relies entirely on the citation writing ability of the sheriff department here.
Mr. Hammonds,
Yes, sir.
with what you just said, you're taking your department completely out of it. Has there been any discussions with the courts, and particularly our judges in the Seventh Judicial, on if they're going to take up these cases or not? If we write the tickets?
There has not been any discussion there.
But they haven't weighed in any shape, form, or fashion?
Not since in the last decade. We have not written a ticket out of our office in the last over a decade.
It's been 10 years, and I'm a little worried about the buy-in, that's all I'm saying. It's like, when they took the special magistrate out, to me, it presents problems. Because we had problems, and this has been overturned in the Supreme Court at the state level, and where else?
Well, the issue you're referring to there was certain exemptions from noise ordinances or certain differential treatment of different types of noise was ruled unconstitutional in the state of Florida.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
And we have addressed that issue as seen by the exemptions. We have no exemptions from the ordinance.
My concern would be when we have individuals who choose to be non-compliant and they continue to get citations, at what point in time does it become willful civil disobedience per se, where they say, I'd rather pay the ticket so I can do my thing? What triggers a threshold that causes them to cause something else to happen? Or will that just be the rule of the day? Keep getting tickets, keep paying tickets. It's not like the insurance goes up because they're getting tickets for being loud, you know, like you would if you were getting a speeding ticket.
Unfortunately, the latter is the answer. It just depends on how and what the sheriff department can get enforced through the court system.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hammonds, your last statement wasn't quite exactly everything, because our noise control officer means the Putnam County Sheriff, Codes Enforcement Officer, and any other person designated as such by the sheriff or the Board of County Commissioners. I came to you, I had problems with that language. I went to our attorney and I have some issues with that also. My problem is, take for example a landowner or a land association manager, if you will, volunteer organization, and the sheriff says, you know what, you can turn in these complaints. You can now become the NCO, if you will. And that would just really wreak havoc on the neighborhood, in my opinion.
That individual would not have the ability to write a ticket.
I'm sorry?
That individual would not have the ability to write a citation.
So a noise control officer does not have the ability to write a ticket?
Currently, I don't have it in the LDC. My codes officers cannot write tickets. And
So the
the
only ones-
sheriff department certainly can't delegate to somebody else the ability to write tickets.
But we have codes enforcement and any other of the
Uh,
Board of County Commissioners.
Probably should be removed.
If we need to remove it, I think we should. Maybe it should just say by the means of Putnam County Sheriff's Department. Or sheriff and his designees.
And I believe, well, I won't say that. I'll have to defer to the attorney. I think the statute referenced, is that for any citation? Let's say chapter 125.69, is that for any citations written by anybody or just citations written by the sheriff?
Well, the
That's-
ordinance, Commissioner Harvey's correct. The ordinance, the way it's written, is that it's the sheriff, code enforcement officer, or any other person designated by such sheriff, or the Board of County Commissioners. Under this ordinance, that is the power. So if you want that limited to just the sheriff, then the ordinance, if you choose to adopt it, would have to be revised to indicate just the Putnam County Sheriff.
Just as a reminder, some of you might remember that, again, it had been so long since we had been able to exercise citation authority. When we revised Article 12 5, 6 years ago, we took out the citation language entirely out of the LDC because we just don't write tickets.
That's what the other heartburn I have with this too is when you designate the person, now we don't know who that person is now. But you bring in the human emotion. I mean, I like the decimal meter. You know, the complaint there is they're expensive. I don't think they're expensive, and you have to be trained on them. But it's cut and dry. If there's a level you can go to, I don't like whoever is going to be in charge to be able to make that decision on what is audible at 100 feet or not. I just think that you have a meter, it takes all the emotion out of it, and it's just more steadfast and could produce better results if we come to that. But this whole thing is very confusing, and I know I talked to you yesterday, and it's nobody in the state is able to come up with an agreeable noise ordinance for amplified sound, is what you're telling me.
It's difficult at best.
I think that instead of using shall use, I think may use, and it will cause the individual who is prepared to issue the citation a basis out in the field, so that when that individual is reporting to their supervisor and then it's going all the way up the ladder, that at least that person had a basis up there. You can't say shall, but you ought to be able to say may use and have the apparatus there, so that when there is what we would call an individual who happens to have a problem with the person rather than the issue, then it does not create that kind of a conflict, and at least it minimizes it at some point, rather than a person to say, well, this person don't like me because I divorced their fifth cousin or something, you know, and that it be something that's totally non-related there, but the person is now victimized as a result of it.
And
I
that's
think
what I mean. That's what I
think
mean.
that's what I hear Commissioner Lible saying. How can we provide a safety net for that NCO that's going out there so that it does not become, because if I understand the Sheriff Department's districts, that is going to be the same deputies in most cases that's in a zone or a district, and once this person becomes agitated with having to be called out repeated times, then it could be a little emotion that get in it and cause a person to have a heavier hand than what they would have if they didn't have some kind of basis to verify why they are issuing the citation.
It's already hard.
Yeah, it's tough as it is, and then now we're putting the NCO in a position of someone saying that this person is being discriminate rather than indiscriminate, partial versus being impartial, et cetera. Commissioner Harris.
We tried to do a noise ordinance quite a few years ago, and we got a decibel meter, and the commissioners went out to different locations and measured. A car or a truck going down the road on St. John's Avenue broke all of the rules of this decibel reading. I mean, it was really high, and every time one went past, it would have blown the ordinance. So it's really hard to do. I don't know if it was that we were not trained, but we had it, we looked at it, and the number came up, and each of us had one. Anyway, I don't really like the decibel way of doing it. And it does say that the Supreme Court, a recent ruling by the Florida Supreme Court, that sound, let me find my place, is covered under free speech, First Amendment, and that any regulation of sound must treat such free speech the same, content neutral. So we have the right now to go ahead and have a person go out there and go 100 feet away and say, I hear it or I don't. I would prefer that. It just seems like that would be the best way to do it. I like the new way.
I think the new way is commendable, and I'm in agreement. I don't think we want NCOs going around using a decibel meter as a tool to check folk out. I think we're saying once a complaint comes in, while they're writing their report up, the tool is just an instrument for them to be able to have some qualification of the sound that was, quote, that's creating the offense, not to use as a tool like you're using a radar to go from place to place to say, you know, what level of sound it was, but when they're actually going to a call on a case, it will just help them put some degree of qualification to how much sound was happening at that time. I think, again, that's what I'm
Agreed.
hearing.
Well, here's a good example. If you went out, you had a complaint, you did the decibel meter, and you got a number 7. All right, so, okay, let's get this, whatever the noise perpetrator, to back it down to a 5. Then they go out 6 months later, same complaint. They say, well, you were at 7, and you're back at 7. Well, you're creeping up again. And you get it back down to a 5. You got something to work with.
A tool for voluntary compliance, not a tool to use against the person.
Because that human will forget in that 6 months what, he had said. It's just the way we are.
Okay, let's open up the public hearing, unless there's some other comments. Mr. Charles Douglas. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Thank you for your patience. It's only 10:59.
Yes, sir. Charlie Douglas, 601 St. John's Avenue. I'm here on behalf of Donnie and Lisa King, and also Stacy and Julian Tilton, the owners and operators of Renegades in South Putnam. And we are in opposition to the noise control ordinance of Putnam County. I do agree that this ordinance as drafted is a content neutral regulation. But when you have content neutral regulations, you have to look at the time, place, and manner. And as it states, the time, place, and manner is overbroad. First, as to time, the period between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. is too restrictive. Because of businesses and considerations of other things like weekends, that time period needs to be shortened to accommodate either an 11 p.m. or maybe a midnight time frame for Fridays and Saturdays. Additionally, there should be consideration for special occasions like weddings or reunions, and other days like holidays, there is no consideration for that in the current draft. There should be consideration for business activities and economic development. Because of the climate economically that we confront here in Putnam County, we should not do anything that hampers a business's ability to operate in our county, and should do nothing to discourage other businesses who may be considering Putnam County to come in and operate here within our county and the cities here within. Additionally, the place where this ordinance would apply. There is no consideration for zoning areas. Should we treat residential areas different than commercial areas? And if we do, how do we treat those differently? I think that should be considered. Additionally, we have to be careful that we are not pitting county businesses against businesses who are located in incorporated areas, like the city of Palatka, the city of Interlochen, the city of Palatka, because, for example, Shrimps R Us is a business down the road from Renegades. They are in the city of Wielaka. And if they are not under the regulation of a noise ordinance, they can attract more customers and hold them longer at their area and their establishment of business than the Kings would be allowed to at theirs, and that's unfair. Additionally, the manner of the ordinance. How is the sound going to be measured? And a few of the commissioners have already spoken to this, so I'll be brief, but we would be in favor of some type of objective standard, like a decibel meter for people, for the enforcement officers to use if a complaint has been launched, for the enforcement officer to come to the property and to take an accurate measurement, not to be used like a radar gun where you're actively looking for people who are in noncompliance, but for those instances where a complaint has been filed and we're going out there now to determine the amount or the level of the sound. So we are in favor of an objective standard for measuring decibels. Additionally, the manner on how this ordinance would be enforced with regard to the distance of the property line. The 100 feet versus 50-foot distance, those seem to be like arbitrary numbers. I'm not sure where those came from. And I completely agree that we need to protect those noise-sensitive areas like hospitals, nursing homes, schools, courts of law. We have no objection to making sure that those sensitive areas are protected and would have less concern for any sound coming over the property line. But I would also mention that a lot of times when folks have an issue with sound, that they have an issue with sound because of where they are standing on their property, whether it's outside or inside a structure. So there may be some consideration for where where on the adjoining property the decibel level is measured, whether it's outside on the property or if it's inside the structure. So at this time, we would ask that you table this agenda item, have it go before a workshop. Again, I know this is an issue that's come up, and you've tossed it around a lot, and at this point, there's probably an appetite for the board to just go on down the road one way or the other. But I think that there could be a resolution that considers the residential concerns, folks who are homeowners and property owners that want peace, and also an ordinance that weighs the concerns of business owners who want to do well in this community and have a business and create jobs for people here in our community. Additionally, I don't see anyone here representing these organizations, but the way that the ordinance is currently written, Hogwaller, which I believe is going on this weekend, would not comply with this ordinance. They would be in violation. The rodeo on Horseman's Club Road routinely go past 10 o'clock with amplified sound, and they would be in violation. The San Mateo Racetrack would violate this ordinance as it's currently written. Corky Bell Seafood, Thursday nights, I believe they have a reggae Thursday, would be in violation. So there are a lot of businesses who would be affected, not just the Renegades in South Putnam, but all over the community. And so because of the reasons that have already been brought up by the commissioners with how we're going to enforce this ordinance, what equipment or if any equipment should be used to enforce the ordinance. I encourage the board to table this. Let's go back to workshop. But if you must vote on it today, vote no. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Douglas at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have one. Mr. Douglas did a great presentation, by the way. But one of your comments was where is the noise is heard from, either inside the home or outside the home. And that has been a struggle for this board, I'll be honest with you. We've heard a lot of citizens talk about noise in their yard and they can't enjoy the outside as well as they can't enjoy the inside. So any recommendations you might have for that?
There is always going to be some type of balance between the rights of property owners and the rights of businesses. And there's not an easy solution. I just think of other neighboring communities like St. Augustine and other places that somehow they have struck a balance. There is outside entertainment. There is music that goes on well past 10 o'clock at night. And and when I say we, I speak of my clients, the Kings. We want to be respectful of people who are in the community. And if there is a decibel level that we can come down to, we're not trying to blare music. We just want to provide a nice place for our clients to come and enjoy, and we can attract for the guests like the Bartram Trail folks who have people come in from all over the country. And when they come, they have a nice place to stay in a cottage on the river, and we can showcase the great assets that we have here.
You know, Mr. Douglas, one last thing. We did talk about different dates and days of the week and different times. That seemed to really get no traction there, but we did discuss that. That might be some avenue that we could go back to, but I don't know. This is a very long-reaching effect right here, and we want to get it right the first time. So thank you very much.
Sligo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Jumping ahead of me, Commissioner Harris.
No, I remember. You go.
All right, you make a good point. And Larry, you touched on it too. The type sounds for the existing businesses that you just named, they did reach a compromise with their neighbors. There's one sitting in our audience tonight, Mr. Larry Atkins there. He has an establishment that falls into this category of it where to go being enforced like it is now, he's out of business. And that's not fair because he has gone out and worked with his neighbors, and in most cases, what I find is the bass of these amplified sounds that really the complaints, it generates complaints. I know in Corky's Bells, I was called on that one for Mrs. Satterwhite, and we have a agreement with Corky Bells. I think Misty Bell goes out there and talks to a new band if they come, and you can't turn that bass up where you get that thump, 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 because that's what really somehow travels over water and just any open space, it seems like. And they cured that. I have never got a call again since they started doing that practice at Corky Bells. But I think tweaking the type sounds that come out of amplified mechanisms is going to be part of our solution. I really do.
That sound technician.
We got to drill down and come up with something. 'Cause these people got to exist. They employ people. Larry employs a lot of people, and so do the other businesses you named. So.
Okay.
Mr. Wayne.
Thank you. We have always, over the years, had different businesses that would come before us for an exception of the sound ordinance, like New Year's Eve or whatever the occasion is, and we waive it for that date and time. So I wanted to ask, would that still be allowed with this proposed ordinance?
Well, when you're talking about whoever is given the authority, whether it's who it is written now or whether it's changed to the sheriff, they certainly have discretion, as they would in enforcing anything. The problem is when you start putting in exceptions or saying, you know, this type of organization, and whether it be a business or a religious organization or a school or any other civic organization, that's when the court said that is content-based, and that's when you're getting into constitutional problems. That's why those exceptions aren't contained in this ordinance, because the Supreme Court has said that's when it's content-based, that's when it's subject to strict scrutiny. And that even applies to classifying businesses differently.
Council, Commissioner Harris, are you more speaking of a variance more so than an exemption?
Usually a variance needs to be spelled out in an ordinance, but we have waived, I think, Mr. Leary, you might help me. Somehow we have waived the sound ordinance for different times or different holidays. And I don't know by what authority we did that, but we've done it. And I just want to make sure that that ability was in this. For certain things, we need to.
It's not, and that was in the old, if you don't mind, that was in the old ordinance.
It was.
That's where that had come from. But again, the Supreme Court said you can't do that.
I see. So we don't have the ability to do that.
No,
We have to spell it out now, or are we even allowed to?
not according to the Supreme Court.
Mr. Douglas, stay tuned to this station. Let's hear from Mr. Berquist. Your Honor. Good morning.
Obviously, I'm a little in opposition to what was just said. First of all, in section 18-197 of the new code, it should not be just the unincorporated areas. It should be every area. Why is amplified sound only in unincorporated areas?
I think that a municipality would have to pass through proper procedures and request the county to add them in. We can't just, do it as a blanket because of the jurisdictional authority.
All right, we can do that.
That's it.
Next, in section 18-199 of the definitions, why is noise from amplified sound only regulated between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.? Many people work nights and sleep during the day. Georgia Pacific is a perfect example. They work 24/7. Noise ordinance should be for 24/7. And I don't know of any school or court of law that's open between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And that's in your sensitive use category. I don't think they belong in there. I think the noise ordinance should be a 24/7 noise ordinance. Under section 18-200, maximum permissible sound, the definition was already read to you, but item number 1, no person shall operate or cause to be operated any source of amplified sound in such a manner as to create a sound level that is plainly audible at 100 feet or more from the property line of the property generating the sound during the night. Suppose you only have a 100-foot lot. Basically, you have no rights. You got to listen to whatever your neighbor puts out. It's not right. It should be at their property line. Same thing with item number 2. Should be 24/7, not from 10 a.m. to 7 a.m. Actually, in my opinion, this noise ordinance gives rights to people making amplified sound. It does not protect the average tax-paying citizen who wants to hear birds and crickets and move to the country for a nice, quiet atmosphere. It only protects the people making the noise. That's all I have right now.
Thank you very kindly. Any questions?
I guess I have one. I was just thinking about your town hall, your, what do you call it, the fellowship hall? That's,
The community
Main.
center?
Community center?
yes, and you have music in there.
Yeah, but we make sure that it doesn't bother anybody. In fact, we just had the fitness center had a Oktoberfest, and they were going to have it outside, and we said, you're in a neighborhood full of residents. We talked them into putting it inside, keep their noise inside.
Keep your noise
not to disturb the neighbors. Like I said,
Okay.
the neighbors should, the tax-paying neighbors should have rights as well. I have a neighbor who works nights. He works from 6 a.m., or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. He sleeps during the day. My lot's 100 feet wide. That basically, he could make all the noise, or I could make all the noise I want during the day and wake him up. It's just not right. Any other questions?
Thank you. I think this commission, the struggle is that we are literally seeking for balance. There's no and ifs and buts about it. We're seeking for balance. We're seeking, with the understanding that one size does not fit all. We recognize and realize that, you know, inside, outside, commercial, residential, all of those particular components create a variation of what ought to be, quote, received as acceptable there. Individuals that are totally out in the midst of a forest, away from, I don't want to say civilization, but away from residential, you know, at the same time, we don't need an ordinance that says that they're violating when there are no individuals that's going to ever say anything, because we don't get complaints from some of the wildlife that's out there.
I'm sure the people that live next door to Renegades moved out there for a nice, quiet neighborhood. Renegades moved in afterwards.
Well, all, and
Basically took away their rights.
All of their neighbors are not complaining, and I don't
I
want
know.
to drill down on the specific representatives that are
Yeah.
here there. And the old saying about different strokes for different folks.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
what
Oh, yeah.
entertains one aggravates the other, you know,
But-
that kind of thing. And we realize in America, that's kind of the rule of the day. You know, if you like it, I don't, you know.
Yes, but
Uh,
once again, amplified noise is something that can be turned down with a dial.
That is absolutely right, Your Honor. Thank you
All
for
right,
your
thank you.
observation and for your commentary.
Okay, thank
Okay, commissioners, are there any other citizens that are here that want to go on record concerning, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Commissioners,
Good morning.
my name is Larry Adkins. I own High Level Liquors here in Putnam County.
Okay,
It's been a business for 50 years. I've owned it 16 years. And out there, we have, on the weekends, we have a DJ, which has amplified sound. My hours on the weekends are, from the amplified sound would be like from 10 o'clock until 2 a.m. The young adults of Palatka come out there. It's a dance venue. It does get loud. I'm in C2 commercial. I'm in the county, but I'm surrounded by C2 commercial. All of that is city. Well, in the past, the Holiday Inn moved in next to me, built the Holiday Inn, and I started getting complaints from the owner of the Holiday Inn. His guests were being offended by it. So he come to my place of business. We sat down. We pulled the existing ordinance, which is 70 decibels, and came to an understanding that if I could keep it at that, everybody would be happy. What I did, I went and bought a decibel meter, Ms. Harris, as well as my disc jockey has a decibel meter. And periods of the night, we check it and make sure that we're below that, the decibel sound. Certainly, sound is not good for everybody, but for some people, they like amplified sound. They dance to it, they listen to it. It's a fact of life. And for 100 feet from my place of business, if that was to come to pass, I'd have to close my business. I couldn't survive. I have 10 employees. So there's lots of things to think about in this ordinance. I'm hoping I'm making a good point to everyone in here. Noise is for everyone, like it or not like it. Any questions?
no, sir.
Harris?
We compliment you on working with your neighbor.
Well, that's what we're supposed to do in a society, is work together.
Yes, sir.
Whether it's down on the south end or here or Interlaken, we're a good society, and we should all get along. And a decibel level is a correct way to do that. Everybody would be happy.
Well, again, it's really about voluntary compliance. All of us are well aware of the fact that laws don't make people comply.
Yes, sir.
You know, at the end of the day, we wouldn't be having to invest and borrow and beg to construct a new county jail facility out there if laws made people do the right thing.
Yes, sir.
Again, I commend you for that, and this commission is pro-business. We're not in any way, shape, form, or fashion interested in adversely affecting business or resident, for that matter. All we want is a peaceable balance and a solution that creates a win-win for all concerned. And I'm going to reiterate the fact that we understand one size does not fit all, but we're certainly doing our very best to vet this thing in such a manner that the laws that this commission adopt, that it will be a tool that is fair, impartial, constitutional, you know, all of those things, so that the individuals who have to enforce, you know, what we adopt are not between a rock and a hard place and create adversity out in the field. You know, we want everything to be usable and peaceable. Commissioners.
I just wanted to make a comment. Well, I commend you for sitting down with your neighbor. And so now the 70 decibels is okay?
That's the old ordinance right here.
Yeah, and so they have not complained after that?
Well, I can't say they haven't. At times, it does get a little bit loud because of the bass, like somebody mentioned. But they're, the person at the desk has my personal phone number, and if it gets loud, they call me personally, and then we lower it to an acceptable level.
We call that good citizenship.
Even if it's below the 70 decibel, sometimes it's going to jump. I mean, that's just, and on the new cell phones, my DJ, there's an app for a decibel meter.
Well, that's great.
That's a fact.
That's what I found. And even the meter is
That's
is
good.
cheap.
And Renegades did that too. They put in a decibel
Kings
meter.
bought one.
And,
Renegades is probably the best thing that happened to that end of the county, in my opinion. We all need to work together with this.
that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Great statement. Commissioners. I'm sorry, we have another citizen that'd like to come and speak to us. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, sir. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Good morning.
Mark Fisher, Palatka. I live out by Mudbog, and, you know, I hear people complain about noise and things like that, and, you know, people are gonna have parties. You're not gonna like it, but, you know, this whole world has got so populated, you can't get away from things. You gotta deal with it. And, you know, I might do things my neighbors don't like. I put up with it. And for as far as the sheriff's office taking care of this, I'd rather see them taking care of something else besides a noise problem. They have a lot more important things to do. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. I don't think that we have as much of a concern with noise that is unpleasant to folk as we do with people who maliciously do things against their neighbor or against their neighborhoods and things of that nature and all. And it gets down to the character of the individuals at the end of the day, you know, as to whether or not I mean, it's a classic example of businesses that are adjacent, that have two different lines or professions, but just working together. And like I said, we're pushing for balance. Commissioners, are we in a position to move forward? Or are we going to have to do some additional homework with council on this, or what?
Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion to table it. I know that that's the last thing some people want to hear, but we got some tweaking to do. We heard it today. I think we got closer to resolve, but we're gonna have to take it back to workshop again.
I second that.
Go ahead.
All right, we, Commissioner District 1, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion.
Okay. I think that we should too. I particularly am concerned that we didn't speak to the judges yet to see if we're going to have support. I'd like to do that, and I'm not sure what the answer is. It sure isn't easy.
It's not
But
easy.
I don't mind having more talk and,
Let's get it right the first time, as best we can.
Yep. And we're getting there.
Is there a time certain connected to your motion?
No, I don't, I think whatever it takes, it takes.
Okay, so we
We
will.
need to talk to judicial and.
Workshop TBA to be announced and
As soon as
to be
possible.
scheduled there. We certainly will keep it as a priority. We know the importance of it. We also know the importance of balance. Proper motion and a second on the floor. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion unanimous, carried. Thank you very kindly. We're going to take a 4-minute break.
Oh, yes.
Board in recess.
Just in time, my leg was going to sleep.
about ready to eat my turkey.
Oh, that turkey. Sure.
David Drive. I'm not eating sweet, so somebody wants it.
Don't kill your turkey yet.
See, Peyton got her driver's license. Yeah. Congratulations.
Second public hearing deals with building code amendment, adding probation as potential discipline of authorized contractors, page 160 in your board packet. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Kevin Powell is our official that is presenting the summary highlights for this public hearing.
The Contractor Review Board wanted to add some additional language to the disciplinary of contractors. They wanted to add the language in there about probation. That way they can monitor the contractor and make sure that they're doing the things that they were instructed to do by the Contractor Licensing Board. So we went ahead and added the language in there about probation, that they can add that as an addition and for up to 1 year of having a contractor on probation.
Okay, Mr. Powell, will you present the specific language that's recommended for revision in section 8-98?
Yes, sir. Probation of not more than 1 year may also be assessed in any case where the board opinion it is advisable for the public welfare in order to assure that the licensee operates properly within the laws in the future. The term of probation may, among other things, require the licensee to report to the board periodically. A finding after due notice and hearing by the Contractor Review Board, the licensee has failed to comply with the terms and conditions of this probation shall be prima facie evidence of misconduct as defined by section 489-129 of Florida statute.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Powell. This is a public hearing. We do open it to the public now. Are there any citizens that are wanting to come and to comment on this proposed amendment? This is a public hearing. It is open for any of the general public to come and speak for, against, or make any comments concerning this proposed amendment. Let the record reflect that there is no individual that is moving forward to come and speak to us. Commissioner, discussion and deliberation. District 4.
I have none, sir.
District 3, none. District 2,
None.
District 5,
None.
Yes, I have
District
one.
1.
I have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Powell, is this something that other jurisdictions do?
State statute allows us to do this. It is written in state statute that we can have adding the probationary period in there. What it does, if we have a fine or they don't want to fine a contractor, they can put them on probation. So we wanted to add this language in there as an additional item that they can do to a contractor. That way, if they don't want to fine them, they can put them on probation.
And what kind of acts would cause a probation?
Unlicensed work.
Unlicensed
Or
work.
complaints from citizens of improper work that they bring to the Contractor Review Board.
Okay. Thank you.
So it provides options and alternatives is pretty much the bottom
Yes, sir.
line here.
Yes,
Any
sir.
further discussion from this commission? Public hearing is closed. Commissioners, what?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move approval for staff recommendation as ordinance as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion to amend the building code, adding probation as a potential discipline of authorized contractors. Further discussion. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 3? Yes. It's unanimous. Next public hearing is Building Code Amendment, redefine manufactured shed exemption, recognized dock exemption, page 163. And Mr. Powell will also be presenting the summary highlights.
Yes, sir. There again, we're trying to get in line with state statute on what's exempt from building code. So what we've done is we've struck out docks. Residential docks do not fall under the Florida Building Code. So we're not going to actually regulate docks. However, we still will regulate the roof structure on a boathouse because of the uplift, and that is regulated under building code. Currently, when you build a dock, you already have other regulation to go to. You have DEP, St. John's Water Management. So they have to go to them for permitting, and they're followed up on by them. So it is not in the building code, so we're not going to go out and try to add additional regulation to the docks.
Okay, Commissioner Libo?
In the case of bulkhead construction in the past, am I right in remembering that Public Works was responsible for those inspections? How do they tie into this marine contracting?
Public Works would, if you're bringing additional fill into the land, that's what they're responsible for. As far as bulkheads, bulkheads do fall under the Florida Building Code because it is still within the lot. The bulkhead will be on the lot. It does not extend out over the waterway.
Okay.
So what we're interested in is how is that constructed? How is it tied back? Public Works is interested when they start bringing in fill and filling the lands.
Okay, in the past, there was somewhat a breakdown for the consumer. It was confusing. Has anything been done to relieve that?
We've spoke with Public Works, and when we send somebody over for a permit from them, they're supposed to address that issue, especially when they're filling the lands.
All right, so our customers, our consumer will not have that confusion anymore.
We hope they do not have that confusion.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Powell.
Also, on this amendment, we're striking out manufacturer sheds. We had it in there where anything less than 288 square feet did not need a permit, just a zoning permit. However, state statute does not support that. It says if there's engineering involved with it, with tie down, then it has to be permitted. We've exempted 150 square foot or less already, so anything that's 150 square foot or less is exempt from a building permit, only requiring a zoning permit. However, a shed, a portable storage shed, DCA approved, over 150 square feet is a permittable item.
Better be careful on that one. Those little mini houses you see on TV now, they're about 150 square feet, and people are.
Well, that's a residential structure, and that would be a permittable item.
Okay, good.
And you
They're
can't go
coming
less
off.
than about 170 square feet on a tiny
Okay,
house.
so the summary of this recommendation is that the proposed ordinance corrects the flaw in the current ordinance. The Florida Building Code does allow for structures, including manufactured sheds, used for residential accessory purposes that do not exceed the 150 square feet in area. Any such storage building in excess of 150 square feet and are those used for other than residential accessory structure will still require a building permit. Where it says the proposed ordinance eliminates the building permit requirements for docks, docks will be permitted through the FDEP. Where is that? I mean, is that still not coming through your office? Or
That does not come through us.
what office does that come through?
Let me add one additional thing,
Okay.
that on docks, there is still a zoning permit. We still do have requirements about setbacks from property lines and so, that sort of thing. So we still have a zoning permit. What he's speaking is specifically the building
Building,
requirement.
okay, the building requirements.
But that does not change the state rules
Got you.
from DEP.
Okay,
Right, they have to go to DEP and obtain those.
where is that?
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Submerged land lease, they have to apply for.
So they have to go to Jacksonville to pull a permit to do that?
Right, and all the dock contractors, the marine contractors
They do that
do
now?
that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
However, as Mr. Hammond said, they would still have to come in and get the zoning permit That way we know where it falls out on the property.
All I really want to see is citizen-friendly processes.
Yep.
There, that's the name of the game. That is just no ifs and buts about it. Everything that is not necessarily elementary, but it is so precise and so easily understood that this person who does not do this every day for a living, they can walk here and do that. Now, perception is reality. We keep hearing the different citizens talk about the process, and contractors talk about, and again, I'm not talking about people who just flat out are non-compliant. I'm talking about people who want to follow rules, people who want to do this thing right. I just want to make sure in my mind and in the hearts and the minds of my colleagues here that everybody is getting royal treatment, that they are being loved when they walk through the doors and say that they're here to pull a permit, that we're giving them everything that would appertain into a positive customer service experience.
Yes, sir. That's what we strive to do.
Okay,
We
well,
do
I
strive
hope
to
there
do
is
that.
check and balance there, and that the team players, when they recognize someone who may have not been as customer friendly as they should be, that someone internally is making sure that that's happening, because it should not come to us. It should be handled in that department.
Yes, sir. I agree with that completely.
This is a public hearing. We want to open it up for any individual that's here to speak concerning this building code amendment, redefine manufactured shed exemptions, and to recognize the dock exemption. Do we have any citizens that are here concerning this issue? Let the record reflect that there were no citizens that came forward for this issue. We'll go back into commissioner deliberations, discussion, or decision.
Move approval, staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second for staff recommendation to be approved in this proposed ordinance as presented. Further discussion? District 2.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 1.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 3, yes. It's unanimous. Thank you again. Item D, partial vacation case number 15-003, partial vacation of the Cisco subdivision, McBride Management / Citrus LLC. Do we have representatives for this particular case for partial vacation? Are there representatives present here related to this case? Please come forward for just a moment so that you can identify yourself, and then we'll have the presentation of the case.
Nathan Garcia, 1553 East Fort King Street, Ocala, Florida, 34471.
Okay, and what is your relationship to this McBride Management?
I'm an associate with the entity that owns this property.
Okay, thank you for being here. Please be at ease. We will call upon you if necessary. Thank you so much.
Harris Burns Cable Plan Development Services, presenting case PV 15-003. The applicant is McBride Management Citrus LLC. The applicant is requesting to vacate a portion of the plat and roads of Cisco subdivision, blocks 43 through 51, Persimmon Street, Olive Street, Pecan Street, Scuppernong Street, Plymouth, Vine Street, and Railway Street of Plat Book 1, page 75 from Public Records of Putnam County, Florida. The Cisco subdivision was recorded 126 years ago in 1889. The subdivision has not been developed in accordance to Plat Book 1, page 75. This is consistent with the definition of antiquated subdivision according to Florida state statute. You can see the aerial here. The area the portion that's going to be vacated is identified by the red outline, and the area is vacant. The surrounding area is largely vacant as well. And then this is the survey from Plat Book 1, page 75, and you can see the red outlined area, which is the portion that is up for vacation before you today. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, we have a presentation of summary highlights and recommended action. Do we have any citizens that are here during the open part of this public hearing to discuss the partial vacation of the Cisco subdivision? Sir, do you concur with the recommendation that is before us, or are you against it? You are for it. Thank you. That's just for the record. Commissioners, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and open up commissioner deliberations for any discussion or decisions on this recommended action.
I have a question.
Question?
Where along Highway 17 is this located? I'm trying to get my figures.
Cisco Road.
Yeah, it's Cisco, the entrance to Cisco Dirt Road is,
On the bottom of the picture, to the right or
right
to
to
the left?
the bottom right of the picture.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
North end of Lake Broward.
okay. I just want to be sure. where
Thank
we're
you so
looking.
much.
I
Any-
wanna know if the stagecoach still runs. It did it one time.
All right, we'll keep,
They're out.
keep our eyes open for it. Any further questions on the request that is before us? Entertain a motion from this commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move item PV 15-003, staff approval to vacate this subdivision.
Proper motion.
Second.
Second. Further discussion. District 3, yes. District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you very kindly. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
Item E, which is a text amendment, TA-15-001, text amendment to the transportation element of the comprehensive plan, commencing on page 172.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you,
Mike
Mr.
Brown,
Burns
Putnam
Cato.
County Planning and Development Services. This is the adoption hearing, the second hearing, adoption hearing for text amendment to the traffic circulation element. We transmitted the proposed amendment on August 12th to the reviewing agencies and adjacent local jurisdictions. The text amendment, first off, renames the traffic circulation element to the transportation element, removes all references to Rule 9J5 since the legislature has rescinded that rule. It amends the level of service on state facilities to be consistent with the Florida DOT standards. It updates a number of policies, especially as it relates to dates, and some wording changes to be consistent with other rule changes, mostly by the Florida Department of Transportation. Staff recommends adoption of this amendment, these text amendments to the transportation element. Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Lible.
Mr. Brown, in
Yes.
any way, shape, or form, do you find that this could prohibit a rural county from developing? With the,
No,
9J5 gone out of the picture?
Yes. No, I believe these changes actually will help us because the primary, besides the name change of the element, the primary changes are related to the level of service for some state roads, and it's actually lower than what we had adopted
It does,
originally.
okay, it lowers, so.
Yeah, I mean, we had B on a couple because they were states roads, rural, used to be level of service B. That has dropped either C or D, depending on whether it's multi-lane or
I'm more
two-lane.
worried about our eastern shore neighbors, Flagler, St. John's, and there's a lot of state roads there.
Yeah.
Are they gonna be able to, I know concurrency is not used anymore, but
I don't think these changes will inhibit any development activities in and of themselves. I mean, I believe it will actually benefit and give us a little more leeway.
I read through and it seems like it would.
Yeah,
You've
that's
been
my
in it a long
belief.
time.
Yeah, I mean, these changes in and of themselves won't affect development that wouldn't be affected I mean, if something hits concurrency, it hits concurrency. These changes aren't gonna trigger concurrency sooner than they would otherwise.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brown, for your presentation. This is a public hearing. We open it for our citizens to, I'm sorry, Commissioner Harvey.
Yes, Mr. Brown, there was, Melrose had an issue with State Road 26 out there.
Right.
And getting to the level of service out there. What does this do to State Road?
This does not affect that. That stays the same. That does not
Okay.
change.
All right,
at
thank
all.
you, sir. Thank you for clarification.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. I'm sorry, Commissioner. Okay. This is a public hearing. We do open this ordinance, proposed ordinance adopting certain amendments to the text of the transportation element of the comprehensive plan, more specifically, the transportation element. Are there any citizens that speak concerning this proposed amendment and revision? Seeing no forward movement, we will close the public hearing. We will go back into commissioner discussion, deliberations, and decisions. What is the pleasure of this commission?
I move staff recommendations here.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion and a second that we concur with staff recommendation to adopt the changes to the newly renamed transportation element of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, deleting the references to Rule 9J5 in the Florida Administrative Code and other changes that were specifically itemized and listed. Okay, time to consider. District 4.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 1.
Yes.
District 3, yes. It's unanimous. Thank you
Just to
very kindly.
clarify, that's to adopt the ordinance as presented.
That is correct. Okay. Thank you so much. With this is, thank you, Planning and Development, for your expertise in presenting us in these particular cases. We'll move now to the County Administrator, Mr. Rick Leary, to present to us facility naming request, update information initially.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quite a few weeks ago, you received a request asking that you consider naming the facility under construction adjacent to the Sheriff's Department, the expansion of the jail facility, asking that you consider naming that after a former sheriff in the county. You've had a couple discussions of that request. Included in your agenda is some information regarding a couple of plaques that are currently in the lobby of the Sheriff's Department. One plaque that reflects those persons who were in office in 1987 at the time of the occupancy of the current Sheriff's Administration building and the current jail facility in 1987 when it was constructed and occupied at its current site. And then another plaque, I think, that depicts the names of sheriffs who have served Putnam County. Previously at a workshop, you discussed this. Most recently on October the 20th, you discussed this request. After several minutes of deliberation, you agreed among yourselves that you thought that the first point of business for you to consider would be whether or not the board should consider if facilities should be named in honor of individuals. So I think that brings you to the point, to that point of discussion at this meeting as to whether or not you want to consider that concept.
Okay, let me give opportunity for, we are dealing with two issues. We're dealing with naming facilities across the board there, and as to whether or not there would be a formal policy to address that. And then we're also dealing with the specificity of the request that was sent by Mr. Ed McClellan there. If we're going to talk about the specifics of the sheriff's office first, then I want to give Mr. Pelosi an opportunity, our colleague an opportunity to state his conflict just for the record, and then we can engage in discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you're going to separate the issues of naming any kind of county-owned facility or building after someone who served the county for a number of years in whatever capacity, I feel that I could participate in that deliberation. When it gets down to possibly naming something after someone that I might be related to, I feel like I need to refrain there.
Okay. All right, the record reflects your commentary. My understanding, again, that the commission was asking staff or maybe even legal to address some type of process and procedure, mainly for future references. We know that there are some county facilities, whether it's a park or whether it's a community building, that bears the name of individuals. However, I'm not aware of any, quote, public institution, you know, such as, again, the courthouse, such as, you know, the sheriff's office there. And then when I saw the plaque saying Putnam County Sheriff's Office and Detention Facility, then the only thing that's really happening with the new construction is that the detention facility is basically becoming a standalone, but it's still a part of the complex. There is my understanding. So what is the pleasure of the commission? Are we going to talk just about, let's go ahead and talk about the facility naming request, and then I guess we can talk about the procedures to name facilities for future purposes. Commissioners.
Who wants to go first?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem naming if I'd like to do it in reverse of what you just said, I don't think I should have I don't have a problem naming a county-owned facility after somebody. I think we do need to get policy or some kind of procedure in play, but I think that honors the person who served, and I don't have a problem naming someone to a county-owned facility.
Okay, as long as there is a policy that exists before we go through the exercise.
I would like-
Wherein in times past, it was just maybe a community group or an individual that made the request there, and the commission at that time acted upon it. But I think that looking way into the future from that perspective, so that the commission does have some objectives and some guidelines to be able to name a facility, I think that that criteria needs to be there. And I believe under Mr. Leary's watch that process is underway already. That there are staff persons that are looking at, for the future in a workshop, bringing some criteria to us. Is that right?
We do have some rough draft procedures that could be evaluated and considered for the future, yes, sir.
Okay.
Just as a reference, at the Putnam County Fairgrounds, there are at least 3 and maybe 4 buildings over there that are named for people that were very involved with the Fair Authority and the progression of that. The WW Tilton Arena, I think it's Robertson or Robinson? Rollison Building, the Hap Loving Building, and there's one more. That come to mind, the Edgar Johnson Senior Center. I'm sure I'm missing something somewhere, but it has been done, and I do support naming it after people that have served long terms and capacities for the county, and then go from there.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on just facility naming in general? I mean, we all agree that we would rather have a procedure with criteria already laid out, so that as requests come in the future, that there are some guidelines, a committee can be assigned to a specific request, bring back a recommendation, that kind of thing, an evaluation kind of committee. Is
I
that
understand
kind
why
of
schools do it, you know, because the use of the building changes. The school actually changes, and reflecting over this for the last few weeks, and I missed that workshop, and I'm trying to catch up right now. But I said a set of guidelines would be very helpful. But it also, in this situation, I have to bring it out, there's losers also when you name a building. So I'm struggling with that. I need to hear some of these guidelines on that.
I think, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
When I was first elected in 2000, that the commissioners that were sitting did not want to name anything after anyone. And their reason was that there would be the losers, as you said.
There's somebody else.
There's conflicts. There's people that want this one and people that want this one, and it just gets really awkward. And so their thoughts at that time was that we should not name anything after anyone, and that we come out ahead. So I'm not sure, but I don't mind having guidelines. I think it'd be a good idea.
I think the guidelines are good to be there. At time of need or at time of request, it's one of those kind of situations where better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it there. I think that you're on point with the comments thus far. With all due respect to our colleague, and in this particular case, when we're talking about the sheriff's office, all due respect to the citizen who made the request to us. I think that at the end of the day, it's almost like a political campaign. You've got some votes for and you've got some votes
It
against.
is like a
and it
political
does create, in some cases, people being polarized, from one end to the other. And the thing that Carl Flagg does not want is to have a divided community, a polarized community, and individuals that are, for whatever reason, insensitive to anybody's name, not just the specific name from the request that we have concerning the jail, but I have a difficult time with people being insensitive and careless as it relates to how they treat people and the lack of civility, the lack of respect, and things of that nature there. I think that we certainly do have to take action on the citizens' request, whether it is to concur with the request, just speaking with people in the community there, and also seeing the plaque that's in the Sheriff's Department. Obviously, it does recognize Sheriff E.W. Walt Palacia as the incumbent there, as well as the commissioners who were serving at the time of the construction of this facility, architect, general contractor, et cetera. I respect what Mr. McClellan's position is as it relates to the state and national notoriety, of Mr. Palacier. And I think that I'm hearing from the citizens that Putnam County should be the name of that particular facility as it is listed here with Sheriff's Office and Detention Facility. But if there is a way or an alternative to give the recognition that maybe due Mr. Palacier as a result of his longevity in service and, and the nature of his service to various citizens, that there ought to be a way for that not to be lost.
I agree. This is the guy was the National Sheriff's Association president. Is that what they called him, Walton, back then? I mean, that's huge. And he was state 2 or 3 times. So you're right in that aspect. But at the same time, we got other people saying, "Oh, name the building after this person." We got a sheriff from the 20s they're calling for. That it's silly. It really is. But you have to take it all in consideration. So
I just think that we need to operate with consensus.
So we should come up with, have a series or a workshop?
I think that it can be brought back, that the staff and the sheriff's office perhaps can tell us how we can recognize the tributes and the dedicated services that were provided. But I think the community is wanting to give us more names, and I don't think that Mr. McClellan brought one name forward for us to open it up to have all of these other names considered.
He did.
He made a specific request, and I think that if in all due respect to the long-term serving sheriff, with all due respect to our colleague and to all of our citizens, we need to either decide that we're not going to name the facility, or we are going to name the facility, or we're going to create a way to honor the longevity of service for former Sheriff Palacier.
Well, how about, with recognizing the longevity of service, but then you've got these sheriffs that are in charge of that same facility coming after E.W. Palacier. I mean, I'd like to see them incorporated in some kind of something too, that recognizes anybody that oversees that facility. I mean, they feel left out too.
I would imagine.
I don't know.
Commissioner Harris.
Thank you. At the workshop, I suggested, actually since the jail was first built, we've had 4 sheriffs. Of course, Sheriff Palacier was there when it was built. We've had
Kelly.
Taylor Douglas and Dean Kelly and Jeff Hardy. And I would say Jeff Hardy is the one in the last few years that put together, again, the Public Safety Advisory Council, which worked to decide to build it, doing what we could to have to not to, moving things along further and not having the prisoners backed up. All of them were very good sheriffs since it was built, and there's only 4. I'd kind of like to see all 4 honored with a stone monument or something out front. And then we have the living sheriffs and their families that are there being recognized with a monument to each or one monument with each of the names.
That's a
I
pretty
just-
good idea.
Just might be a
Talking about at the
compromise.
entrance To walking in the facility?
Probably near the sheriff's office door and near, and at the edge of the
Where somebody can
new
actually see it.
facility.
Yeah.
I think the new facility is going to be hidden from the public eye. I think the people who see it are gonna be the people who become temporary residents, as
So
the tourist
I'd like to
develop,
explore
the
what
Tourist
Commissioner
Development
Barrett-
Council call it head in bed, but we're just not getting any of the tourist development taxes from it.
So near the sheriff's office
I think near the main
entryway.
entrance where the general public is coming,
Yeah.
that we need to honor those who have led the sheriff's department in some way, shape, form, or fashion in lieu of actually naming the facility so that we don't become a part of dividing the community on the issue.
But can we, at the same time we come up with whatever we're gonna come up with, set the course for the future when it
Yeah.
comes to these public buildings? Because Walton's right, we got requests at the fairgrounds even right now, and this sort of thing. The folks that are there, other than Maltby, I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, I'm not sure what to do. It's a tough one, because you're right,
Chairman.
it divides.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just reference thought, in St. Johns County, their jail is named I don't know if it's the jail office building or the actual jail facility, this bar's essence of it. That's the Neil J. Perry Correctional Facility, and I don't know that St. John's is a divided community over such. And he was only a 20-year sheriff. Food for thought.
What's the pleasure of this commission?
I'm gonna let y'all go on with it. But I'd like to explore the future more. I really would.
So am I hearing us say that we're not naming this facility or any facility at this time, but we do want to give honor to whom honor is due? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, that's
not what I
part
heard.
of it.
Okay. Sir?
I thought I heard Commissioner Lible say that he wanted to research it some more.
That's what I say at this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I want some policy.
Yeah.
if
about
we're,
public buildings.
if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, aren't we trying to make a decision before we have the grand opening?
Which is when?
So we have a deadline of sorts, right?
January the 8th at 11 o'clock.
We got a little time.
You don't have that
And
much time.
opening for, I like that.
Ribbon cutting or what?
Gotcha.
Okay, if Commissioner Lible is saying that, of course, we want to drill down on a policy, we very well will not meet the deadline of naming this facility there. We got holidays and all of those things that are coming up. So I'm saying that if we want to meet a deadline, let's find a way to honor the former sheriffs and the current sheriff, who obviously is going to be in office there. Don't take away any credits from anybody. And if we want to not take any action on this particular case, let's just say so.
But the one thing I said a minute ago, I think that Sheriff Pellicier's longevity and outstanding service at a national level should be recognized in whatever we come up with.
Correct. So whether it's the naming of the facility,
Or the
there needs to be
monument or whatever,
recognition
yes, yeah.
there. And so,
That will never be done again. I'm sorry.
Right.
I just don't believe that in
right.
modern times.
I agree.
40
There's only
years.
been 4 from the state of Florida.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm talking about even
Right.
serving that time period. That's a long time to serve. That's all I'm saying. You know, I'm interested in listening to some ideas, so. But I'm with you. I don't think the time limit will be met for the ribbon cutting, and that we should go ahead and make a decision on something.
so is this commission saying, let's bring honor to the Sheriff Pellicia forward, doing this
With the others.
dedication?
With the other.
Yeah, with coming forward. And right now, we are tabling any action on naming this facility or any facility. Is that, I want to make sure I'm clear
Right.
on what this commission is saying.
So we're
what I'm
gonna do
agreeing.
some kind of a monument out front near the sheriff's
If that
office
is what this commission
names
says,
them
but
all.
I need some official action, so staff will know that that's what this commission is directing.
Well, I'd like to see some ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm give
Ideas for the monument is what you're saying.
Well, that's what it's gonna be, monument or whatever. I mean, you
Monument or
discussed
plaque or
3 or
something.
4 different things. I think it needs to be more than a plaque, and I think it needs to be something
monument and a plaque
that
are
takes
usually
you into the future. Future elected sheriffs should be able to be included. This should be a fairly substantial monument that could be added on to. I mean, you can't just take one and do this. I mean, you're gonna have to go forward with it too, so it's gonna take a little thought. If this is what we choose, if that's what I'm hearing from you guys. But I definitely wanna address the public facilities issue in a timely manner.
Well, I make a motion that we put a substantial monument at the entryway of the sheriff's office, naming the 4 sheriffs that have participated and been on that location since it started.
And what about?
Mr. Leary, do you need a definition of substantial?
I think somebody needs to define substantial because everybody has a different definition of substantial.
Isn't there a flagpole out there?
Well, certainly.
Is it at the entrance?
It's a substantial flagpole. Yeah?
Okay. At the base of that flagpole, there should be.
Well, yeah, that would be the proper location.
Yeah, it's a monument there now, and I think that, yeah, there's a monument there now, and why don't we suggest that Mr. Leary, or his designee from administration, the sheriff designate a person there, and I don't have a problem being the liaison or the representative from the commission. Let's get this going because time is of essence if we're going to bring some honor to them or someone else who prefers.
I don't think you can leave out anyone, whether they were good or bad sheriff, if they only served 4 years. I don't think you can leave them out if they got elected. They got elected and you.
They did, that's right.
and
Well,
they should
I mean,
have-
I thought I heard, if I might interpret what I thought Ms. Harris said, I thought she was talking about recognizing those sheriffs who served at the situs of the current facility, which would be the 4 sheriffs.
87 forward, and it started off with P.W. Walt Pelletier.
Right. And I heard another commissioner say that there should be provisions for the recognition of sheriffs going forward from the end of Sheriff Hardy's term. So it would seem to me that that would lend itself perhaps to individual monuments.
So each person stands on their own.
That could begin to sit around the flagpole.
Like a ring of honor.
When I say substantial, I don't think that's substantial.
Well-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's an
But we're
inside.
not talking about a plaque when we
Talking
say
about
the word
I like
monument. We're talking
individual
about
granites of what
a
comes to
granite monument.
I got you.
And we're not talking about something 6 feet high, but we're talking about something that comes up.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Well, that has a nice, and it builds upon the flagpole we already have there.
Right.
And the entrance to the thing, and it gives the respect, I think, that we're trying to give this man and those that followed him.
And you can make mention of, I mean, I could see it being designed as either having an achievement during their service,
Yes,
whether it was a
yes.
state or national here. And then again, does it happen with a sheriff that moves past his term, or does it happen when they move past the earthly terms?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just saying, right now, Mr. Pelletier would be the only person that would qualify if we're saying it's going to be recognized as a memorial versus it being an honor.
I think
There's a
that-
difference.
When you go past your term,
I think you go past your term.
Okay, so in other words, we will do the 3, and then at the end of Mr. Hardy's term, then the 4th one will go out. Is
that's
that what
right.
we're saying?
And their achievements.
Well, while you,
in there.
of course, since you've got an announced end of term, while you're doing it, you could do the 4.
You could.
I mean, since he's announced his.
Let me really cloud up the waters. What if that sheriff comes back and runs for office again?
Well, it won't be so big you can't
It'll
pick
be
it
a
up and move it somewhere.
It'll be a stepping stone.
Take it away.
Yeah,
don't worry.
we can have the inmates to move it. Okay, do we have consensus
We have consensus. Yes.
on that? Okay. All right, I
have
do
a
have a
motion.
motion.
A second. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, let's clarify the motion for understanding. What is your understanding of the motion that
The
is on?
motion is that we would put a monument for each sheriff that has served when the facility was first built.
Right.
87 forward.
And we would put information underneath that of their term.
Achievements in office.
And what?
Achievements in office. High achievements in office.
Okay. And that it would be substantial and maybe, are we saying engraved in the stone so it'll stay there?
Pardon?
Some of them might be blank.
You were doing okay till you
their deal.
put substantial back in there.
Okay, delete substantial from the record and high and all of those adjectives. I'm just teasing. Do we have an understanding and a consensus on the motion? Motion and a second?
Cheap-looking thing sitting up there.
No,
Let's do it
no, we're
right.
talking, you said granite. We,
Okay.
granted, I wanted
We'll do
marble,
this.
but
Let's
we'll
do it
go with
right.
granite. I wanted marble, but we'll go with granite. I'm just teasing.
You should know a lot about this granite
Yeah,
stuff.
we
A
don't.
little bit about it, but, okay, any further discussion on the subject? Was there any public input on this subject? Just want to make sure, don't want to, after adjournment, someone said you didn't give me a chance.
That's right.
Your name for the record, please.
Tim Hotelling, San Mateo. Just a footnote. Where I moved from had the longest living sheriff in the state of South Carolina. And as I left, he went to federal prison. And that tended to make a little bit of embarrassment for the county executives there. So, not that it had ever happened here, but it's just something to think as you go forward on your discussions. And I like your ideas, but just a footnote.
Thank you for sharing. Any other comments from the general public on this issue? Commissioners, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion from the commission? Call for the question. Those in favor? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District, I'm sorry,
You said 5?
I shouldn't have said 5.
That's
We're
right.
not voting on this issue.
You're not
Oh,
voting.
well, I have to.
Actually, since Mr. Commissioner Pelletier is at this hearing, or at this meeting, since he doesn't have a financial conflict as that is defined by statute, I've advised him that he does need to vote on every
He just
motion
voted.
item that comes before him today. So even though he would like to stay out of it, I
District
put him
5
in the
again, for the
uncomfortable
record.
position of having to actually vote.
By Florida statute,
All right.
I'm voting yes.
Now, the power invested in me. All right, District 4?
Yes.
District 3? Yes. Mr. Leary?
I don't have anything further other than, any of the appointments that the members of the board can fill that are listed in the agendas, or
Okay, Commissioners, under item B, Animal Services Advisory Committee, are there any appointments?
Working on one.
Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, are there any appointments or reappointments? Better Place Plan Oversight Committee, are there any appointments or reappointments? Contractors and Building Trades Examiners Board, are there any appointments or reappointments? I recommend reappointing at-large consumer representative Carl Davis, and I recommend reappointing at-large roofing contractor Jerry Leslie Sims. Is there a motion to that effect?
Yep, so moved.
Second.
Proper motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Fishing Fund Advisory Committee.
I have a question on that for Commissioner Pelletier. Do you know when the fishing fund meets? folks?
They've jumped around so much, Commissioner Lible, I honestly can't tell you off the top of my head. They've alternated their meetings due to scheduling conflicts, and I cannot tell you.
If I could find that out, I have
Yeah,
somebody
there's,
willing to
Miss,
serve.
We'll put Miss,
Angie.
okay,
Help you out.
Miss Angie
Okay.
on that, okay. On the Greenbelt Advisory Board,
There's a correction there.
Yes.
Unless something's happened. Mr. Corn lives in District 3.
yeah. So I think was he in 2 before or something like that?
It
To my
says
knowledge, he's
district.
been in 3 for many, many years.
Okay. All right, so is it a District 2 appointment or District 3 appointment? Do we know? It's 2?
The two appointments, they're not required to reside in the respective districts.
Oh,
Okay.
Greenbelt is not?
And that's how, I appointed him.
Okay,
years ago.
Mr. George DeLoach indicated that he would be interested.
I recommend Mr. George Deloach right here and now.
I have no problem with that.
Yes, that's a motion.
Okay.
He would be a fine addition to that board.
Second.
Second.
Proper second. Further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Northeast Florida Regional Transportation Commission, we have a person who has served on that board, and I'm not sure that they're still interested in continuing.
Character, you better watch.
To serve.
Yes, I
up
would.
there. He has done a magnanimous job, and I knew it was gonna cost me later for saying that, but anyway, we are very proud of you being to the table and causing Putnam County to be not only just there, but respected.
Right.
And I think that that is commendable, and I certainly would support if a commissioner was willing to.
I'm willing.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we
Okay.
reappoint Commissioner Lible, and I want to add to that, that he's treasurer of that organization, and he has also stepped forward to help with Ride Solution and some of the problems, and this committee will help us in that regard. And I certainly recommend we reappoint him.
we have a proper motion
Second.
Second.
and a second. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you,
Motion
Commissioners.
unanimous. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
leading. Any appointments for Parks and Recreation Advisory today?
I have none.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Lible, you had mentioned a lady's name that might be interested in animal services. Would you give me her name again, please? This
I
morning.
will. Uh-huh.
Okay, he's having a senior moment.
Kay Dinkler.
Kay Dinkle?
Dinkler.
Dinkla.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, we've already taken care of the USDA Forest Service Southern Region Recreation Resource Committee. If the person can tell anybody what committee they're on, then they deserve to be on it with a name that long there. But thank you so much, Commissioner Harris, for moving that forward. Anything else, Mr. Leary?
No, sir.
All right, we'll go to the county attorney, Stacy Manning.
Nothing further.
Okay, I don't think the clerk has anything to say right now. Okay, District 4.
Mr. Chairman, I will be attending the Florida Association of Counties Legislative meeting this coming week as the co-chair of the Rural Caucus, and I will be up there representing Putnam County for that.
Thank you very kindly. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, how's the drawdown coming?
I'm sorry?
The drawdown.
Drawdown is happening. It's drawed down quite a bit, and we'll be filling it back up in April. If you haven't seen the reservoir in the drawdown, I would encourage you to go out there and see that. You'll see the reason why we need to keep 21 billion gallons of fresh water in there. And if you just saw the recent article in the paper where Water Management has approved 160 million gallons of water being withdrawn from the St. Johns River before it ever gets to us. So water wars are going to happen, and we need to be protective of the water and the environment that we currently have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very kindly. Commissioner Pelletier.
I concur with you, Commissioner Harvey. Question is, tomorrow morning, the Logic meeting still on, to everybody's
Correct.
knowledge? Okay.
Correct.
All right, I plan to attend that. And then you and I are going to Amelia Island on Thursday?
We're supposed to be at Small County Coalition tomorrow too, sir.
Can we fit it all in?
Just can't make it happen in time.
Send Commissioner Lott.
I want to ride with it. Do they have the ethics class available?
Yeah.
Today. It was today.
Wouldn't you know? Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Sorry.
You can do it
I'm sure
online
was
too. I
Tuesday.
think you can do it online.
They did it a day earlier this year. They usually do it during the budget, but they did it a day early.
Okay.
Commissioner Laba, you're next.
I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Harris.
We're doing some extra support for Ride Solution and really working on it. We also, from Swanee River, received their budget that we asked for, and we need it to be reviewed, and would like to move forward with the appointment of someone from our community to serve on that board. And I'll let you know more as we progress.
Okay, the Regional Leadership Award Ceremony, it's coming up on December the 3rd. They're asking for RSVPs by Friday, November the 20th. So please, let's make sure that,
Mr. Chairman, is that a luncheon?
that is correct.
Yes.
What is that again, sir?
The Northeast Florida Regional Council elected officials and regional leaders luncheon is Thursday, December the 3rd, from 12 noon to 2:30 p.m. at the University Center at the University of North Florida. We also want you to be mindful of the ceremonial display for the wastewater East Putnam on December 1st. And all of those notes, you should have emails to confirm those, and then we can
So
proceed.
that's a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, the one December the 1st
Yeah.
is that at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
10 o'clock a.m., and we do have USDA officials as well participating in that.
And then, do we have anybody receiving awards at the Northeast Florida Award Ceremony this year?
I think we do. Okay,
Oh, you know somebody.
yeah.
Wow.
We
You
have,
can-
we
you can-
definitely have an outstanding.
Are you gonna make the RSVP?
Yes, we can get,
I'm in.
I'm in too.
okay. All right.
Put me down.
I'm in.
Okay, so it's unanimous. I'll get with staff so that we can make sure that we all are RSVP'd on that.
What was your other date for December? You mentioned something very quickly.
The first is the,
I got that.
okay.
I
and
thought
then
there was another
This
date.
was the the Thursday is for the regional elected officials, regional leaders luncheon. Okay, commissioners, be mindful of the workshop that is scheduled for 1,400 hours. Enjoy your lunch. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you all for persevering.
1,400 hours.